All right, I call this meeting to order at 7:04. First things first. Milan, is there any way you can drop the link to the agenda? I don't know why I can't find it in my email right now. Thank you. All right, are there any changes to the agenda? Daniela?
Hi, can we please strike ASRF? Thank you.
Alicia?
Can you please strike art allocations?
Okay. Wait. All right, Josh?
Hi, can we please strike capital contingency funding, please? Thanks.
All right. And Devon?
Can you strike that, please?
All right. And I think Phoebe put in the chat, she can't unmute, but would like to strike TGIF. All right. And I would like to, can I add a statement? Depending on the discussion with our undergraduate student reps from ASU, CLA, BOD, I might have to strike it in order to update it. But yeah, I'd like to add a statement regarding the vote to release CPO checks by the ASU CLA Board of Directors. Okay. All right, if there's no other changes, can we get a motion to approve?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I move to approve today's agenda.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All right, Naomi motions. That was Eliana, right? Yeah, Eliana second.
Yeah, second. No, yeah,
Okay, all in favor,
that's
please.
it, yeah.
All right. So we got 11. All right, got 12. All right, can everyone lower their hands? Can everyone lower their hands? All right, all abstaining, please raise your hand. All against, please raise your hand. All right, we have someone didn't vote. But by a vote of 12 to 0, the motion passes and the agenda for this week is approved. All right, next up we have the minutes from last week's meeting. I hope everyone was able to review those. Are there any changes that need to be made to last week's minute or clarifications that need to be made to last week's minutes? All right, if not, can we get a motion to approve?
I vote to approve last week's minutes.
I second.
Okay, Sarah motions, Alicia seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and by a vote of 13 to 0, the motion passes and last week's minutes are approved. All right, next up we have public comment. Public comment is a time for individuals from the ASU CLA, from the association to come to USAC and give any comments or give any questions or concerns they may have regarding anything. So if you are in attendance as a public commentee, please raise your hand to be promoted and keep your hand raised so we can recognize you. All right. All right, Clara.
Hello, guys. It's me. I'm going to give weekly CalPERS updates. So 2 things to talk about. The first is that our federal lobby day is next week in Washington, D.C. And 2 students from UCLA were chosen to represent California, which is very exciting. So far, we've scheduled 69 congressional meetings, and 18 of them are with California offices, so we're gonna be very busy. And we're also gonna meet with 5 White House staff people, including the Senior Director for Chemical Safety and Plastic Pollution Prevention, and also the Senior Policy Advisor with Clean Energy Innovation and Implementation. And one thing that we're going to be talking about is our Right to Repair campaign. We're especially looking for student leaders like yourselves to help out on this. So quickly what that means is basically when things like devices especially break, like we don't really have a culture of fixing things. We like just buy another one because these big companies like Apple make it so difficult to actually repair things. So you just like when your phone starts breaking, you just buy a new phone. A funnier example is the McDonald's ice cream machine. It's also a similar situation. But either way, I'm gonna put a link in the chat. If you are interested in signing on as like your USAC role, that would be awesome. We're looking for student leader sign-ons to show that this is something that students care about. Obviously, there's the environmental aspect of like all the e-waste produced from people throwing away so many electronics, but also it's more like that when you buy something, you just didn't have to not be able to fix it. That's kind of messed up. And the second thing is that the All-In Voting Challenge just opened up nominations for their annual Student Voting Honor Roll, which recognizes college students at participating campuses who are advancing nonpartisan student voter registration, education, and voter turnout efforts, as well as ensuring equitable access to the polls. And I know that some of your offices did a lot of really good voter work, and it'd be super cool if someone from UCLA was to like win. So if there's anyone from your office that you want to nominate, I'm gonna put the link in the chat as well for that. So yeah, that would be super cool. And yeah, those are my 2 things for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Next up, we have Anna.
Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. Per the elections code, keeping with the voting theme that we have, is I have to tell you guys whenever a change happens to the election cycle calendar. And basically I'm here to just tell you that leafleting hours have been changed from 12 to 4. And the candidate reimbursement grant deadline has been added for April 17th. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to be recognized for public comment? All right, if not, we will be closing public comment at 7:13. All right, next up is funding. First up is contingency programming. Josh.
Hi, everybody. Hope you had a great week so far. This week, we had a total contingency request of $29,957.41, and we recommend an allocation of $16,596.33 for 40 non-USAC entity-related events and 1 USAC entity-related events. And I'm happy to expand on any of that, and we'll put that in the chat right now.
Thank you. All right, does anyone have any, Elian, I see you have your hand raised. Is that new?
My bad. I just forgot to lower it.
All right, does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding contingency programming for this week? All right, if not, can we get a motion to approve?
I approve the contingency funding from I motion to approve the contingency funding for last week.
I second.
All right, Sarah motions, Naomi seconds, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, my vote of 13 to 0, the motion passes and contingency programming for this week is approved. All right, next up, we have SFS allocations.
Hi, everyone. So for SFS this week, we recommend approval of $9,938.13 to 4 CSC and 4 non-CSC affiliated student groups.
All right, Divine, is that, Eliana and Divine, is that, are those new hands? Do you have questions regarding this?
Sorry, no.
Yeah, my bad, man. Should do that again.
All right, does anyone have any questions regarding this? If not, it is a consent item, it is approved. Next up, we have SWC programming fund allocations.
Hi all. So this week the SWC programming fund allocated $849.94 to non-SWC groups. And I'll drop that in the chat.
All right, does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this? If not, it is a consent item and it is approved. All right, next up, we have AAC travel mini grant allocations.
Hey everybody, so this week EGMF allocated $3,000 and $3,806.53 to 5 non-USAC entities, and I will put that in the chat.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this? If not, it is a consent item and it is approved. All right, next up, we have a spread. We were supposed to be meeting in regards to ASUCLA Board of Directors, vote to release the checks. So I was told apparently the Board of Directors or the undergraduate reps, I guess, decided just not to show up. Does anyone from ASUCLA want to speak? I mean, Roy, could you speak to this?
Yeah, I just forwarded. So I think that Udia had sent an email to all council members earlier, sort of explaining, I think that you were meeting with the CFO. She wasn't sure what that date would be, that it would be soon, and that they thought it might be more productive for you to have a chance to have that conversation, learn whatever you would learn from that conversation, and then they could come the next week. I think that's what that email says. I re-forwarded it to you, Carl, but I think everybody in the council got that email.
Okay. That doesn't really make any, I mean, I understand they sent that, but I mean, we requested they come to council. They're the undergraduate reps that are put on the board by USAC. And they, I mean, Woodia gave me her word that she would come on February 21st, right? In the first email, did she not say that?
I don't remember verbatim what was said. I believe that she said she wanted to talk to the other grads.
She gave a
There were
specific
graduate members that were not present, and she didn't feel she could speak for them, and so I think she wanted to go back and consult.
Well, I definitely have an email saying that she would be here on February 21st. That says she'd come to this council meeting and she speak to the other council, the other undergraduate, the other reps. And that's fine. Like, I'm not really, I mean, we don't appoint the other reps. So, you know, they're not really, I guess, technically responsible to USAC, but we appoint the undergraduate reps for ASUCLA. So I'm just confused as to why they would not come. Like when they said that they would come on February 21st.
So I just messaged Udia, but can I just ask what the issue is?
Well, yeah, we're trying to find out the issue. We're trying to, that's why we need them here, because, you know, we're hearing small details here and there regarding an alleged vote that took place regarding funds that were withheld. So we need an update from our undergraduate student representatives on the BOD board who took part in this vote in this secret vote, because we don't have any, I mean, there's no minutes on it. We don't know when the vote took place. We don't know what happened there at all. So I'm trying to get an update because, you know, this affects, you know, stuff that students did last year and also what our students were kind of focused on this year. So that's why we need them here.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not familiar with the issue. So I messaged her. I'll let you know if she is able to join.
All right, we'll attempt to come back to that. So we'll go next. We'll go to Phoebe for the bylaw change. Is this a presentation or is this a vote?
I think it's the vote. It should be pretty brief. Essentially, the bylaw change is to allow for the office space allocation chair to be a co-chair position. Jessica told me that, you know, it might be beneficial to have like more than one person as a chairperson, just because it is a pretty large role. And I agree, it's been, I mean, it's like tons and tons of office space and student organizations. And Hannah, the previous USAC chair, told me like she had to send tons of emails because like signatories sometimes like don't reply back and stuff. So yeah, feel free to click. Unfortunately, you can't share screen right now. But it's like, besides like, you know, adding like the one co-chairperson, I know some people might have like concerns of like, oh, like when is there one versus two? I think just because like, you know, the facilities commissioner is like the one that appoints, like not because like we don't want to like be accountable to our decision, but like, you know, year after year, it depends on like the candidates that you're given and like what ARC says too. So trying to make sure that we have like, we'll just like play it by ear and make sure like, you know, the candidate is qualified, and see like if like, you know, the candidate that we think is like ideal, if they want to co like a given year, maybe we will. So just like leaving it open like that. So that's pretty much it.
All right, does council members have any questions, concerns regarding this bylaw change?
Phoebe, quick question. Oh, sorry, Daniela, you can go first. I just went.
Just go ahead, because I'm pretty sure you and I probably have a similar question, but I do have an additional.
Okay. Just making sure this isn't a stipended position, correct?
This is a stipended position, and I think they have like a set amount of funds in USAC where they can use it to like stipends like other committee members too. So I think it's like an idea where they like would split the stipend or like figure out the money. Jessica would probably have more details though.
Yeah, I can kind of give more context if needed. So what's budgeted currently for OSAC is just the, you know, the single rate. And typically we've always only had a single chair for OSAC. Usually in allocation years, we always encourage them to hire a committee, but then they kind of have to split that stipend with their committee members. And it's been really hard for them to actually hire and maintain a committee. So essentially, by doing it as co-chairs, it would basically fill the role of OSAC without needing the committee. So you would just have two co-chairs, and they would split the cost of the stipend this year since it's already currently budgeted that way, and we can't change it now. But, you know, looking into next year's budget, you know, we can kind of see if it makes sense to keep them at the same rate that they're being stipended at, or adjust it slightly so that the split is, you know, a little bit more equitable. But yeah, that's basically the background of trying to make this a co-chair situation rather than a chair having to find a committee to help support them when it's really challenging to have people committed to the role and actually do the work that's so desperately needed, because you know, there's a lot of student organizations that have space in Kirkhoff. So hopefully that answered it. If not, let me know.
Daniela?
Yes, I have two questions. So one, in regards to the proposal in the bylaw change where it's either one stipended appointment or two, I wanted to ask if you felt it would be feasible to define underneath that that line, what conditions would determine whether it would be one appointment or two appointments in a given year? And then separate question, it's more procedural, and I think it might be geared towards Jessica, because I don't think that this was sent to the CRC for a vote prior. Can we vote on this right now?
I might have messed up an email because I remember CCing Eliana, Sarah, and you on an email with this with Milan. So I don't, unless I like am making that up, but that's the email thing. But I don't know about the vote part. And then the other thing, for the like the further specification on when to choose one or the other, I agree. It is a little vague. And like I did try to like think in my head, like as I was like writing it out, like, oh, do I say like they would only like it would only be allowed if they're confirmed during the same council meeting? But then some people have like scheduling issues. So then like maybe they won't be confirmed during like the same council meeting. Or like I was thinking, okay, like by the request of like the other, like the first council person, if like I'm not council person, chairperson when they're like appointed, if they request another additional chairperson, like maybe that's when like you would do it. But then I figured that there's still also cases where like this year when FAC was forwarding appointments, we like one of the appointments we were like, okay, like they seem like they have like a really heavy workload, but we think they could be good standalone, but we also think it'd be great if they had like the support. And like us as FAC, like, you know, given that there is appointments review committee too, we like forwarded it to ARC and we're like, oh, ARC, like what you guys like think is best, like we'll go with that because we like both options work. I feel like having it open-ended does leave it more flexible based on the conditions of who's recruiting for that year and like how like heavy the workload is. But I also like understand that like it might create problems down the line when people like interpret things differently. But I don't see it as an issue just because not that many people apply to USAC in the first place. So I feel like this should be okay. But I do understand if people wanted me to like put an additional line, and I can do that if that is something that a lot of folks think is necessary.
Thank you. I mean, I trust that from your experience making this appointment, you'd probably understand best if it would be needed. So I trust your judgment for sure.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for bringing up the concern though. I think it's very valid.
Okay, and so this did go through CRC?
I just checked the email. It did get sent out last Thursday. It's just that I missed it, but Ileana did vote.
Okay, I mean, so we don't have an official vote on this by CRC because only one of the individuals voted, so I mean, technically we can't vote.
Yeah. Sorry. Am I the one who did vote or the one who didn't?
Ileana, you were the one that did vote, yes.
Oh, perfect.
So, I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to table this to next meeting because we didn't get the CRC vote.
Daniela just sent in her vote now. Does that not count, or does it have to be like all of the votes had to have happened by like 5 p.m. last Friday?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's more of like because you presented this at last council meeting?
No, I sent it over email.
And you sent it on, I think what it comes down to is it has to be presented to like CRC or announced because it's a bylaw change 7 days prior to it being voted on.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Phoebe, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go on. Okay, well, no worries about that. My bad for like misremembering the process.
No, you're good. I'm sorry for having missed the email. Another thing too is that CRC requires a minimum of 3 council members. And right now we can only account for 2. So unless I'm missing something, so that's another holdup. I think we are gonna have to table for sure.
All right, awesome. Wait, Okay, no problem, Milan. That's cool. I mean, it just got lost in emails. All right. So next up, we have an appointment for Office Space Allocation Committee Co-Chair. We have I hope I don't mispronounce this, Abril. Have we promoted Abril? Okay, there we go. I see Abril. Okay. So yeah, we haven't done an appointment in a while. All right. So basically the way this works, appointments go, you'll give your opening statement, and then we'll take questions from council members, and then you'll give a closing statement, and then we'll hear ARC's recommendation. And then once ARC gives their recommendation, council will go into a discussion. And, you know, after the discussion, we'll do a vote right then and there. So without further ado, the floor is yours for your opening statement.
Hi, so yeah, my name is Abril Valde. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm a political science major with a minor in urban and regional studies. So I just wanted to like clear up that I am interested in USAC because I believe in the philosophy of student initiated and student run, and love working in spaces like that and have like experience with that. Like, for example, I work a lot with the CRC. And one of the reasons I do believe this like role is crucial is I believe that USAC needs to expand its accessibility to students. It's massive bureaucracy, so it's digestible and easy to interact with, which is why I have various ideas about expanding student access to OSAC and OSAC's interactions and direct connections to students and student groups. Further, I want to establish OSAC's role as an overseer of Kirchhoff services and generate a sense of student ownership and genuine community amongst office tenants and all students. So part of those ideas, so I have an idea for like a newsletter, a website, and really like outreach to tenants, and just like consistently update them on resources and opportunities, including funding apps, office issue complaints, service requests, USAC announcements and updates, etc. I really think this is a really good opportunity to work on a more like community building. So like an annual Kirchhoff open house. So kind of expanding past the enormous activities fair, making it more of a Kirchhoff thing and having offices open up and be able to recruit new members or just get along with their neighbors and just kind of build community, you know, to bring together, execute. I just hope to execute this event and expand like on that idea. I think it's a really good way just to also get involved with some of these groups, especially since a lot of these groups are like really historical. They have a history of being like student advocacy groups, and they have a long time. They've been there a good minute and Kirchhoff, so I think it's a good opportunity to get to know them better. And also just holding like a Kirchhoff end of the year banquet to celebrate the work of the office tenants and allow USAC the space to directly interact and thank the student organizations for filling the gap in programming and community that USAC sometimes like can't really like do, since I know it's a lot of like regulation, delegation on your part. And yeah, I think just like OSAC really needs to like actively work to identify ways to expand student access to space and storage. So one of the biggest things I really want to work on is really work on like a 2-year research and development project over a potential new student referendum to fund like new student union, modifications to the current ones, and just like to fund like outside storage and office space. And yeah, or just like work on development of a strong external grant, to like bolster like coordinating development of a strong external funding sources to like provide students with off-campus storage space, research potential outside office space, provide rent subsidies. But yeah, those are just like some of my ideas. I have planned this out thoroughly. I think OSAC is something I could definitely take advantage of for the better of like community and for those organizations that really do need it. I know that I've worked with a lot of these organizations and have seen them as a third-person party, and I really understand how developed and in-depth these organizations are and how much Kirchhoff really means to them. So I think OSAC can really take a really good, big play on this and can really make this a more prominent role. But yeah, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. All right, does council members have any questions? Can we get at least 2 or 3 questions? All right, Ellie.
Thanks. I really love your vision. Could you maybe talk a bit more about some stuff you've done in the past that is like an example or model for stuff you want to do now in this position?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So I've worked with the CRC for 2 years now, and I'm very involved with the mother organizations. And I've sat in a couple meetings and was there during the whole Murphy Hall thing. And I worked really closely with some of them. And although now I'm kind of like moving away from it, but from my experiences from those, I know the mother organization has like really big play in student advocacy and like student participation, and like right now it's kind of like dying off. So I think this is a really good opportunity to like support them, kind of working with these communities. Like from my past, I know what their needs are, how the system really works, and how their layout works. And a lot of what I did, like for my ideas for OSAC, kind of go based off of that, like what things they really need to work on. Like I think like membership and like being really out there is one thing that OSAC can provide through Kirchhoff. And yeah, I'm just trying to think of like anything else. I've done a lot of CRC work, and currently am, and yeah, I think it like both of those experiences really helped me understand where these organizations come from, their history, and really help me put these ideas into play and kind of like further give me more context onto like what to do with these organizations and how to like better my work ethic and whatnot. But yeah, I hope that answers it.
That was amazing. I really love that. And this is great. I love having someone who can take what might seem like, oh, office space, whatever, and show why it matters and how to do something worthwhile.
Sarah.
Hi, thank you for coming to council. I second what Eliana said. I really liked the answers you posed to her question and sort of just your overall spiel. My question was, what traits do you think you have that would fit well in this position and help you be a strong USAC chair or OSAC chair?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So I'm gonna like do 3, and I'm not doing this to kind of like build my ego or whatnot, but just like 3 I think I really are relevant to this. So I think one is community building. I work with a lot of community-based organizations, and it's although like I didn't like start like with these organizations, like I had to learn, and thank you. I really had to kind of like learn from the ground up. And I think as like a newcomer to where I am now, I think know firsthand what it's like to kind of walk into these spaces without any knowledge, and like to now like learning how to like encourage people. And it's not like I know a lot of this like type of management seems a lot of like delegation, very like barking orders, but I think one of the biggest traits I've learned is that it's a lot about grassroots and grounding yourself and really understanding like the capabilities of people and capacities to really make like efficient work. It's something that I learned through from my experiences, and that kind of leads into another trait, which is like I'm like really knowledgeable about most of this stuff, about like the history. I do know Kirchhoff and ASUCLA are some of like the only like student-run spaces on campus, and it's really vital that students continue to run these places. And I really know, and I know Kirchhoff is like I mentioned in my opening, it's that most of the organizations there, like the MOs, like ASA, PISA, ASU, MESHA, Ideas, they are all like, we're branded student advocacy groups and they have history there. And I think it's really vital to understand that and to know why they're there and how it's there, and like really see their history. So I think that's also a really good point. And I also have history on the MOs and like brief histories on like SIOC and CRC and some of the USAC buildings I think would be really relevant when trying to maintain both the MO relation and the US USAC relation when it comes to like their literal like physical meeting, which is like Kirchhoff. And yeah, I also like kind of like I hope like I think of myself as a leader, so I think leadership's also a really good role. I've maintained and organized a lot of organizations. Like currently, I am also working with my new organization called Urban Bruins, and that is probably one of my defining moments as a leader. And since I've been able to handle that and it's been working really like smoothly, I think like I also have the capability, capacity and capability to do this. And I think it's just one example of how much of a leader I've grown to be and can work on my own. Yeah, I think that's well, kind of like, yeah, just those top three.
Alicia?
Thank you for coming over to it's always a pleasure to have you. And thank you for your opening statement. That was incredible. I was gonna ask like what are your plans to build community amongst the office tenants here, but you already like kind of touched on that. But if you have like one of the plans you mentioned, like that you're extra passionate about, what would it be? Like I know you mentioned the newsletter, but yeah, and how do you plan to outreach to these groups and transform like the space they're in? Because I know coming into my office, like I had to clean a lot, like how will you support offices with their needs, especially because I know a lot of the offices in Kirkhoff were unattended for the past 2 years with the pandemic and such. So how will you plan to transform the spaces that students don't know the potential of, like don't see the potential of if that's a factor in their involvement in the space. So I was a little much, but thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for your question, Alicia. So yeah, like I've like really try to reimagine the role and really trying to be more direct with it. And I do think that the OSAC position is more of cleaning, but like I think more of a dust cleaning. Like it's like we need to like reimagine it, rework it. And I think one of my passion projects for this would be both the newsletter and the open house. And I know trying to like revive Kirkhoff and trying to gain momentum and get people to recognize Kirkhoff. Because I know for everyone it means something different. Like for me, it's like years and years of history, and I think it's like really important history at that. And for others, it's literally like, oh, it's where they filmed Clueless. It's just the Clueless, not Clueless. Wait, don't hate me. Legally Blonde, sorry. And and I think one of the best ways to kind of revive that, or at least like encourage people, or like really like trying to emphasize how important Kirkhoff is by trying to offer more ways than just space, because I think the only people who really know about Kirkhoff are the people whose office is in there or have like or who still use their offices at that. I know right now if like you walk down the hall, it's like all like boxes and like like to each their own. They gotta use the space for whatever they need to use. But I think the best way to kind of encourage people to like recognize those spaces and to like really get people to come out is to hold events there. And I know that I do know that the CAC holds a lot of events in person, but I think having a really more in-depth like walk of Kirkhoff and knowing that it's more than like than this like one group or like the Kirkhoff Coffee House is like the best way to do it. And I think through that comes my community, like the open house thing, and kind of having people walk around. Like I said, it's an expansion of the enormous activities fair. And I think the thing, I think I mentioned it, I didn't mention it here, but the EAF, I think one of the biggest problems with it, not problems with it, but it's literally in the name, it's enormous, and it's really hard to get to every org. And I think that's where most of these orgs that are housed at Kirkhoff kind of get like ignored or silenced. Like these are really big events where like they can't really like be spotlighted on. And I think Kirkhoff really provides that. I think with its history really like can show off these really important organizations that from UCLA to like students. And I think like just like open house and more interactive play like just would really help revive it. Will make it more of a homey like space again. And and just like really maintain those relationships within it. Like I think it provides opportunity for other orgs within the space to get to know their neighbor, because I know for like a while, like some people don't even know who's like next to them, or they won't see who's next to them. So I think it's just a lot of like in-person events and like open houses with obviously like some accessibility to it too. But I think that's one of the best ways we can in trying to like keep momentum and revitalize it. But yeah, hopefully I answered that correctly. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, you're now free to give your closing statement.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So I just like want to reiterate like the need to need to completely revitalize the OSAC's engagement with not only its tenants but the entire student body. Even if it is just by increasing the use of social media, like I think there's a really big need for that connection, and then OSAC really provides that. And I just also want to say that it's really imperative to completely rejuvenate the OSAC space as a leading forefront for students to access facilities for their ongoing programming. In doing so, OSAC and the Facilities Commission delivers on the central commitment to the student body. So yeah, I just think it's really important. I think, like I said, mentioned a lot before, that OSAC is like an untapped mine, like I think an untapped well. Yeah, there you go. Where it's like there's a lot of things to do with it, with the role. And I do think with my past history, with my knowledge, that I could be able to kind of bridge that and make OSAC, or try to fulfill OSAC to its complete potential. But yeah, I just want to reiterate, like student run, student initiated. I think this is a really good way to further this concept. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, now can we hear ARC's recommendation?
Hi, everyone. ARC passed. Oh, sorry. ARC passed his appointment with the 3-0 vote. I don't know if you all can hear me. But...
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for discussion amongst council members. Does any council members have any questions, concerns, or comments they want to do regarding this appointment? Alicia?
I just want to say, I really support Avril, and I'm so glad that she stepped up and applied to this for multiple reasons. One, she's also a part of ARC's community project. She's actually the director of it, and the ideas we're working on are just so organic and so intentional, as well as like the role she plays in the CRC. I feel like she's an incredibly knowledgeable student, and I'm just really glad she applied to this, because the way she sees the life in these offices is just very genuine. And yeah, I see that her vision, and I really appreciate it. So I just want to share my support for her.
Eliana?
Yeah, just want to add, April's great. Like there's a lot of great appointees, but I haven't been this impressed very often. And like, I have a bit of prior experience in terms of like knowing urban ruins, mainly from Instagram, and I'm impressed that way, but also just these answers have been amazing, and I love this.
Sarah?
I just wanted to add, because I appointed April to the CRC, and she has so far done an amazing job. So I just want to give out my support and just like commend her for just being so involved in very important roles on campus.
Okay, awesome. All right, if no one else has any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this appointment, can we get a motion?
I move to appoint April for the OSAC position.
I second.
Sarah motions, 1 second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, by a vote of 13-0, the motion passes. And Abril is now the Office Space Allocation Committee co-chair. Congratulations. Okay.
Hi. Sorry to kind of cut in, but Woody and Alejandra from the board of directors just came in and they told me they want to speak to council about the associated student staff. So folks could promote them and let them speak. It'd be great.
Yeah, Eliana, I was just about to recognize them. Can we please promote Udia and who else is here on behalf of?
Alejandra Costamo. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering her name, but yeah. And Murat. Is someone named Murat is supposed to be in here? Did they leave?
All right, so we'll be going back to the special presentations aspect, speaking in regards to the ASUCLA Board of Directors vote to release the CPO checks. So I see in attendance we have Woodia and Alejandra. So I did see your email very late, but typically the way council works, we schedule individuals to come, we release our agenda, like Friday, right? And so like whatever happens Friday, we put out to the public, hey, this is what's going to, take place. And I also did speak with the CFO, which I'll be discussing a little bit more. But I still think it kind of comes down to speaking with you individuals who were there and who, cast the votes. Because at the end of the day, it was a secret meeting that USAC wasn't aware of. We weren't, allowed in it. We didn't know what was happening. So this is a chance just to really talk about it because we don't really know what happened. And so we just like to speak to you in regards to, the specifics of what was voted on, who brought this forward to the agenda in the first place. And, just kind of speak in regards to where the disconnection in regards to communication was with ASUCLA Board of Directors and USAC.
Hi, wait, can you hear me? Wait, can everyone hear me? Okay, thank you. First of all, apologies for the video off. Like I was just caught off guard, and thank you, Ileana, for like reaching out to join. I wasn't sure if we were gonna come today or expected to come, since I didn't hear back. But thank you so much, and I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to like come since you all were ready. But yeah, like I mentioned in the email that I sent, ever since our last meeting last Monday, so we've just been talking on our end, trying to like, think about all the questions, most of the questions that were asked in the meeting that we had, and just kind of bring answers to that and write up that to a certain extent so that you all can review it. And then also understanding that, Carl, that you would be meeting with the CFO, which you just mentioned that happened today. And just knowing that what happens after that, because most of the questions that were asked on Monday might be better directed towards them. But to your specific question right now that you asked, like, hey, just want to understand like where that gap happened, like what happened in the meeting, why was this brought up to us, to our attention, to kind of like vote on it and stuff. So this was brought to us in direct response to the CFO letter that we received, which I believe, Carl, you now have as well. That was forwarded to you, if I'm not mistaken. So this was brought to us. I mean, previously before then, this was also like an ongoing discussion, and like we mentioned Monday, where there were student leaders from the committees that these funds go to come into the board during public comments, like explain like why these funds need to be released and the impacts or potential impacts that they have on said communities if these funds are not released. But however, those were like in, if I remember correctly, this was in like November of last year, our last board meeting for last year. And then this year we saw that letter literally in January, I believe, as well. And then so the board's action to release the funds was in direct response to that letter, which we did in executive session that we had to talk about it, considering like the sensitive notion of the of the situation as it was presented to us, and we just talked through it and everything. And up until that point, most of the questions we asked, like, okay, what does this mean for students? What does this mean for like student leaders? And understand like to the extent of what you all know, because from our understanding, this is the main players in this whole situation is council members, as you all have mentioned, and CPOs, like understand like, hey, what do council members know to this extent? Like, what are their involvement in this? And we were informed by Roy, who is the liaison between the board and council members, that he has had conversations with like multiple council members, you yourself included, Carl, and a couple of the folks. I mean, I try to like get specific folks that I put down on the document that I sent out. I don't know if everyone has had a chance to go over it. So we were on the understanding that, hey, like everyone, these folks understand what's happening, and this is like the last resort, because we needed to rehash that point that, hey, we do understand that this vote happening right now is a point of like last resort, after, you know, going through other solutions that were happening. And then on last Monday, Carl, you mentioned that you were forming a committee, and that's not something we knew before, you know, to vote. And I do understand, like, if we were in like better communication beforehand, I feel like that could have all been avoided, to understand like, hey, these are some things that are happening right now, or maybe it could be held off to a certain extent. Not saying that that vote could not have happened if we, you know, had been in communication better, but it could have been held off to a certain extent because we did not know that as well. But yeah, but then after more conversation, since we last spoke on Monday, we've kind of like talked through it more, like, hey, let's try to understand like where, you know, the lapses in communication happened. We're like, hey, like, so with the specific folks that you spoke with, Roy, what were some of the conversations like what did you explicitly say that, hey, you know, if something doesn't happen right now, you know, this is going to get out of hand? Like, to what extent were those like decisions that we're not wanting to reach, like to what extent were they like communicated? And then it was made clear that, hey, like, we did not explicitly say that, oh, the board is going to vote on this, or the board is going to take this action if, you know, inaction is happening right now, just to like avoid the board being put off as like threatening to council members, or like stepping over authority of council members, which is what we didn't want to happen. But at the end of the day, with the whole vote and everything, that's how it came out to be. But yeah, I think for the most part, that's what happened on our end. And from our end, voting on this was within our fiscal authority and understanding fiscal and fiduciary responsibilities. Sorry, I'm all over the place right now. But yeah, I mean, if we have other specific questions, Carl, feel free to just like, or other members, feel free to just go back and forth. We can answer that are not already like put on the document that we try to like send out to you all as well. But I'm hoping like your conversation with the CFO would kind of like put more light into the situation as well, because again, for this whole thing, I know I was talking to another council member the other day. It's like, we are basically a transfer agent in this instance, like, and it's just like, hey, if there's monies owed that are beyond past the fiscal year, and then you receive a note from the CFO being like, hey, this is what you need to pay this money, or else you're delinquent to the university, we have the right to act on that. Just purely that, not considering the other political, you know, edges that would have to that, which we know, like, you know, does not provide the full scope of everything that's happening. But like I mentioned last Monday, and you also mentioned, I believe if we had better communication or understood what the communication was happening, I feel like this could have been avoided to a certain extent, or like the level we're at right now, understand like, hey, at least you all would have been aware that, hey, this is what's going to happen if we don't act quickly. But yeah, I think that's just like a little bit of like rambling and summary all over the place. But let me know if there's specific questions.
Thank you. Council members, you can ask questions as well. We had a discussion about this Monday, and this, you know, this is for being on the record. And I remember you stated that you were ill-informed of a lot of the things surrounding the checks, correct?
Wait, would you want to specify what you mean, like ill-informed about?
Well, you remember we talked in our meeting Monday, we talked about
Yeah.
how you hadn't spoken with anyone from, I mean, you had like, you kind of were getting confused, members of CRC and SIOC, and you
Yeah.
weren't too aware. And you said that it was your first time seeing this letter that was sent to the ASUCLA executive director in November. It was your first time seeing it in January, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also stated so you also stated that there was just a lot of things in regards to why council decided to withhold the funds that you just weren't really aware. You were just being told that it was your fiscal responsibility as being a part of the BOD board, correct?
Yes. I mean, we do have an idea of like why, council's withholding the funds. Like we do have like, that background information to a certain extent, but and that's why the funds have been withheld for as long as they've been, because they're overdue by a year now, because we understand that. But right now, at the point that it reached out, we had to vote on this. It was primarily a fiduciary responsibility. Like, hey, at this point, like and as you all mentioned again on last Monday, it's like, hey, this fund should be held for specific reasons, and to a certain extent, it's for political leverage. But when this is brought to us, like we stay out of that. But when it's brought to us, when it reaches the extent to which it is brought to us, it does not only become a political stance anymore. It's just like, hey, these are monies owed that have to be paid. We as ASUCLA, we are responsible. The university gives this money, like, hey, these are monies that are paid by students. Now you have to give it to the entities for which these monies are supposed to be like, going to. And from our POV, it's just like point of view is like, okay, well, that money is delinquent right now because of like, a little bit of stuff like political struggle. And at this point, there is no evidence to say like, hey, why we shouldn't release the funds. So then we do. But at the end of the day, if like there's anything that you all find that is unacceptable for the funds to be released, ultimately have to be checked in with the CFO, if that kind of makes sense. Because for us in the middle, it's just like we're just a transfer agent, and legally or fiduciary, like we have to release the funds.
Well, this is my problem, and I got you next, Eliana. This is my problem with it. I mean, I don't know who's been telling you this is just a political thing. I mean, because per the same bylaws that allowed us to appoint you to your position, we have oversight of the funds. We have the right to withhold the funds, like per our bylaws. They're the same bylaws that are the reason why you're in a position that you and the other individuals that are part of the board. So it's not just a political thing. It's a bylaw. It's a constitutional bylaw thing. The second problem that I had with just the way this whole process went. I mean, it's not even just about the release of the funds, right? Which is a egregious overstep, which is debatable. Speaking with what you guys say is your fiduciary responsibility, but it's just the way it went about. Like, you don't think it was weird that funds that council voted to withhold were secretly voted on by a board that has nothing to do with it, in secret, and then we weren't told about it until a month later? You don't think that's a bit strange? You don't think it's strange that council wasn't reached out regardless? I mean, like whatsoever. This council hasn't taken an official stance on the CPO checks or that situation. You don't think it was like a little weird that we weren't reached out to about this, or asked, hey, how does the council feel about this? Because Roy can say, Patty can say that they reached out to me and spoke to the other council members, but it wasn't one or two council members that voted to withhold the fees last year. It was a unanimous vote. It was the council in general, and officially the council didn't take a stance on this. And so I'm just very confused and kind of upset that we weren't taken into account in regards to releasing the funds whatsoever. And this is also unprecedented and sets a precedence, because as I recall, the statements that have been made are that this council has no say-so over funds from the last fiscal year. And as I stated before in our last meeting, if that was true, then that would mean that this council has no control over surplus, which is false. And that would also mean that this council doesn't have any input in regards to the interest that is collected on the USAC endowment, which isn't collected during our time as council members. So that's just what I wanted to say, but I'm gonna recognize Eliana.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate that. So yeah, first of all, I was wondering if you could say which individuals and associate students UCLA, if any, initiated this decision.
Wait, I'm sorry, Ileana.
Thanks, Woodia. Thanks, Carl. Just wondering, was there an individual and associate students UCLA who initiated this decision, or was it just like, yeah?
I wouldn't say there's like any specific individual that.
So you all got an email from the CFO is what I'm guessing, and like y'all started talking about it basically at the same time. Is that what happened?
Yes. So like I mentioned earlier, the letter from the CFO was brought to our attention in January, right? In the January meeting where we talked about it as well. So
Did anyone in particular bring it to your attention? So I'm not trying to interrupt, just trying to dig down a bit more. Did anyone in particular bring it to your attention?
yes, because the letter itself was directed to the executive director of ASUCLA. So that he brought it to our attention.
Is that Poria?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Is that Poria, the executive director? Is he the one?
Yes, that's Poria.
Okay. So it's basically initiated by Allison Baird, the CFO, and Poria Bassi, executive director, was the kind of the conduit for that. Does that sound accurate?
I would say to an extent, because this information, like, I mean, the letter itself, when you read it, and Carl has sent that letter to, is directed to the executive director, and then they're charged to like bring it up to the board to discuss it and see like, hey, what's going on about it. So yeah, it come from the CFO to Poria and then from Poria to us.
Appreciate that. My second question is, do you think there is some error or some problem with the way the Associate Students Board of Directors handled this? And if so, what is the error and what are you going to do so it does not recur, and to correct the consequences of it as much as possible?
Yeah, I do. I mean, like I said in our meeting that we had on Monday, I mean, as soon as we all call us that meeting and we started talking about, I recognize the first loop in all of this that's like was really bad was the lack of communication. Because again, the lack of I wouldn't say lack of communication in its entirety, but just like the manner in which it was done. Because I mean, we were under the understanding that, hey, like, you know, folks are being talked to about it. And again, because again, Roy is a liaison between the board and USAC, but I believe this could have been better if we had direct conversations with council members to understand like, hey, what is the level that you understand the severity of this issue, and what are your thoughts on like how this are moving forward. So I think that could have been better, and that's something that we acknowledge and recognize, and that's something that could be improved on as well.
Thank you very much. And I just want to add, yeah, you do need to be talking in the future with all of council, not only particular members. So thanks, Woody. I appreciate all that.
Alicia, well, first off, I want to say that we also have two other board members here. So Woody, you don't have to, you know, talk for everyone if you don't want. There's other individuals that can also speak, because I do understand that, you know, these individuals also voted a certain way. So I would like if other, you know, ASUCLA BOD members spoke as well, if they could answer some of council members' questions. Alicia?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate like the frustration of the fact that like UCLA and the CFO should not be in charge of like threatening like anything surrounding this money, because it's not federal money, it's student fees that students voted on and passed, and it's referendum money from students. So and also CPO has the money to pay people. CPO has millions of dollars that they sit on and they're not transparent about. And I just want to reiterate like the frustration from, I guess, myself and obviously many of you, of like students appointed by the student body should have known that about this decision. It's not just that you didn't communicate, it's that you overstepped in our role. But yeah, I just wanted to say that once more.
All right. I just wanted to ask too. So, Woody, I understand that you stated that you weren't aware that I had formed a committee regarding this issue that was, slated to fix this issue this month. I was wondering if the other two board members had heard about this committee as well, or had heard about it at all.
I'll add into it. Carl, just for transparency, I am a non-voting member, or I did not vote in the referendum, or I didn't vote in this decision. I'm just like the alternative or the alternate. So I didn't get called to vote for this one. And I was not aware either of a committee that was being formed to rectify this issue. So I'm on the same boat as Wydia with the terms of knowledge about that.
Hi everyone, my name is Murad. I guess I can go. Oh, sorry, I'll turn off my notifications in a second. Yeah, I'm a fourth year PhD student, a grad representative on the UCI Board of Directors. Yeah, I to your question, I guess, Carl, right, the chair of the meeting. Yeah, I don't think I was aware that there was a special committee forming to specifically discuss this issue. Yeah, but I was under the idea that there have been communication between the management and the, I guess, USAC council. I'm sorry, I don't know how the undergrad side works, but yeah, and I guess that was sort of, I guess, I'm also, I guess, for transparency, a non-voting member, but yeah, yes, I wasn't aware that specifically committee was being formed, but B, I was aware of the fact that there was some communication happening, and that the communications have been happening for a while now, and it didn't specifically happen. It wasn't like, to my attention, I just also joined the board this year. I got aware of the whole issue, I guess, the September, October, I'm not totally sure, but when the issue was brought up, we were told that there was communication happening between the management and the, I guess, USAC. So yeah, and you guys are welcome to ask more questions. So, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you all for coming, especially the grad student. I mean, both of you are non-voting members. We have voting members that, undergrad reps that didn't show up today, which is crazy. Woody, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, Carol. I just wanted to mention, because I know like a lot of folks are missing from here as well, but no one knew about the committee up until last Monday when we met. And then I informed them, because all the folks that were there, I informed everyone else afterwards about like, hey, this Carl mentioned that he was working on a committee as well. But yeah, and then for the other folks who couldn't join right now, I tried like messaging the folks who could join in, but they weren't able to because it was like on short notice, they didn't know. But just wanted to like clarify that too.
Yes, Naomi.
Yeah, so quick question. Were the non-voting members like in the executive session where the vote took place? Or is that a no?
Yeah, we were present in executive session when the vote took place.
Okay, cool. Then to follow up on that, like just trying to like understand how it was like presented. Like, I don't know if we like mentioned, but why did it have to go into executive session? Like, was there like a reason given?
I'll honestly, I am not sure why it went through executive session. It wasn't explained why it was going through executive session. So I don't know if Woodia, you have any more information on that, or Roy.
Contract and personnel matters are the most common reasons things go in executive sessions. Most bodies use executive sessions for certain circumstances. This, I think, essentially was a contractual issue because there is essentially an MOU between USAC and Student Affairs that speaks to this issue, and therefore it has contract characteristics.
Oh, gotcha. That's interesting. And then follow up to the question. Sorry, last one, y'all. But I know we mentioned like in previous meetings, like when this was presented before the vote, there was mentions of like BOD being in delinquency. Was it ever explained to y'all what would happen in delinquency, what that meant, like, or was it kind of just like, I don't know, like leverage for them to be like, y'all need to vote now kind of thing? If anybody wants to speak on that.
I guess I can go next. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess a couple things before answering your direct question. I think yeah, about not voting members not being present. I think I don't remember when specific. We had a special meeting with our board members and discussed. We took it very seriously. Obviously, your complaints, and we had a meeting with the board members and the management and the CEO. So, and we agreed upon that it would probably be better if we had this follow-up meeting once you had the chance to speak to his CFO, and which is why I think a lot of board members weren't able to show up tonight. And so that's first. Secondly, so I don't know the exact reasons why it went into executive session. I assume that's probably more a question towards the people who organize the board meetings. But I didn't feel any sort of like, I guess, agenda or any, from my point of view, there wasn't any like, I guess, anything sketchy happening just because so that we to justify it being specifically in the executive session. And thirdly, to your question about how it was presented, I guess, I guess in my understanding, we were being delinquent because, as William mentioned, the fees haven't been transferred since last year, and the fees from the last year's fiscal year, and I think most of it was presented from the point of view of our fiduciary duties. Yes, we were. I joined Aiden later, but I think Woody already mentioned it, so I don't. I'm sorry that I'm not adding more information, but that's I think that's the point of view I got. I guess those were the things presented. Like mostly, obviously there wasn't any like as Woody mentioned, no, nothing specifically political, nothing specifically contextual, but mostly presenting that we're not following the rules, and also I think based on our common sense that based on our common sense, what the conclusions I made for myself is that we're delinquency specifically when it comes to ASUCLA, just having these funds floating in the air, not being used, not being I guess put into use, and because again, to your point, I think someone mentioned earlier that obviously it's student fee. The fees are coming from students specifically. It's not like UCLA has no oversight and so on. I do understand, but I think for at least from my point of view, it was the money was floating, and like student fee, the fees weren't they should have been placed in a specific, I guess, to where it was supposed to go. I'm sorry for, yeah, I just came back from the gym, so I think like, yeah, I'm
No,
out of breath,
fine.
but yeah.
No, it's fine. And I think, like I say, you said you don't feel anything sketchy went on, but I think you're just misinformed. Were you aware of the resolution that USAC passed last year, that froze the funds? Were you aware of that resolution? Have you ever took a look at it?
What kind of resolution specifically was it?
So USAC released a resolution. The resolution that started the freezing of the funds, right, was released last council. USAC started that. So were you aware of that? Were you aware of this resolution? Have you ever taken a look at it?
Yes, I want to be careful. Yeah, as in, when the issue first was brought up, a couple of board meetings ago, yeah, I have to look back into my notes, and I might have missed it, but hopefully my other, I mean, Ali wasn't there, but do you remember, did we have a look at that specific resolution? Yeah, sorry, I can't give the exact answer right now, but I think what I remembered was it wasn't signed off by the council member last year, right? The transfer fees wasn't approved by it wasn't signed by a I guess finance chair committee member who oversees the transfer funds. But there might have been
let me pause you. Let me pause you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Woodia, what about you? Did you take a look at the resolution that started these funds to be froze?
Resolution from last year? No, I'm not sure that was forwarded to us.
Okay, got you. And so that's the thing that, I mean, I kind of figured that, because speaking with you about this situation, it seems that, and it's not your fault, not completely your fault, but speaking to this, it just seems like most of the board members, you're not really aware of why council froze the funds in the first place. And that's the thing, like, you can't sit here and say, when our bylaws, right, our bylaws are once again, I want to say our bylaws are the reason why you're able to be put in the position that you're currently in. Our bylaws state that USAC has oversight of those fees. We have oversight over the fees. We have the right to stop sending fees to a certain program or activity that's in our bylaws. And we had a specific reason as to why, which we'll get into a little bit later, as to why we decided to freeze the funds. And it seems that none of you were aware of that. And I mean, the executive director knew why the funds were frozen. I was on council last year. He knew why the funds were frozen. And he brings you this letter, but doesn't give you the reason why we froze them in the first place. Or he doesn't tell you about the committee that we formed that was supposed to fix this problem. Like, do you now see, like, it seems like you all are a bit, innocent in regards to you just really didn't know what was going on, and you voted a certain way out of like something being phrased as negligence. Eliana?
Thanks, Carl. I think that settled. That was very good. I was also wondering what you might have been told about what would allegedly happen if you did not release these funds, because I'm guessing, I definitely know some of you are not don't have a political alignment with CPO or anything and have some understanding of the issue, especially Roy. So I'd be curious what negative possibilities about what might happen if you did not release these funds might have been mentioned that might have motivated some of you in this decision, because I want to know how UCLA is moving towards solve.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead, Rudy. I'd appreciate that.
Oh, okay. And I think Naomi also asked a similar question earlier as well, to understand what was the extent this was indicated, what would happen if these funds were not released. And basically, from again referencing that letter as well, I don't know if you all have looked at it clearly, but also understanding too the whole idea about it is that if those funds were not released, since they are fees that are collected based on a referendum to go to a certain entity entities specifically. And since we were just holding that money, basically just holding it as floating, if those fees were not released, then the university is mandated to possibly just stop, they would need to discontinue collecting those fees from students. They would stop collecting them from students, or essentially have you all basically use, because USAC is the one mandated to do that, maybe run like a referendum to like pause the fee in its entirety. Because again, it's seen in the light of like, if I mean, without this position, thinking about it as an average student, my fees go to that money to a certain extent. So it's put in the lens of like, hey, if you're paying for these fees and they're not going to what you're paying for based on the referendum, then we might as well just stop collecting it overall and students get that money back. Or just oversight the whole process. Because again, this money, it's very like, when you think about it too, again, from like a very like fiduciary financial perspective, it's very interesting how like the whole channel works, because it's like, it's money that's collected from students by the university. And when it's collected by the university, they then send that money back. They send that money to ASUCLA to give back to the university, quote unquote, again. So it goes that way. So, I mean, eventually the ultimate threat, I would say, quote unquote threat, is like, hey, that money can just be stopped in its entirety if it's not going to the people that it's supposed to be going to. But yeah, I think that's just the ultimate decision.
Were you told anything about what would happen if the money was theoretically stopped?
I mean, no, but me thinking about it right now, that money is supposed to go to like, committees, like specific committees that represent like underrepresented students. Like if that money stops, then those committees would stop getting funding. For me, just seeing it from that sense is like, ultimately, I mean, for now, it's been run sufficiently based on reserves. But ultimately, if USAC decides to like stop that fee in its entirety, so that money goes back to students don't have to pay for that, then I mean, I would imagine that those programs would be affected too in the long run.
So yeah, sounds like they're basically trying to tell you that they would effectively get rid of all the access and retention programs. We didn't release these funds. Thank you, Woodia. Good to know that. Appreciate you, really.
Alicia?
I just wish you, as not you, Udia specifically, the board of directors, the student representatives on that board would have knowledge and understanding about why the checks were being withheld and why that money wasn't being given to the community programs office. Because if you knew anything about their history with these communities that they're supposed to serve, you would know that there's a reason why the money's being withheld, because it's an act of political pressure against the community programs office, because I don't want to get into it, but because of how awful the CPO has been, deserving of abolition actually, and it empirically has proven that with the checks being withheld, like even one could be a lot of political pressure for the community programs office. So yeah, I don't appreciate that you didn't investigate why the checks were being withheld in the first place, because you just assuming that USAC withheld it to take away services from students is bizarre to me, and I really am upset that you did not inform yourself of the decision that we made, the fiscal decision that the previous council made to take this money away from the CPO.
Murad Khan?
Yes, first of all, thanks a lot for expressing your frustration and complaints. I think it's very important that we, board of directors, would take into account moving forward. But I guess what I had in mind is what I wanted to express is that I guess from one standpoint is that when okay.
I thought
So
you were
what I
are you responding to Daniela, or are you is that a new?
yes, it's specifically to previous person's comments. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I'm responding to previous person's comments. Sorry, I missed their name. I think Alicia, right? Yes, again, I understand your frustration, and I hopefully moving forward will communicate more transparently. But also specifically, I think I think when we made this decision, we tried to be as I guess. Again, just looking at it from our fiduciary responsibilities, which what implications does it have? A is that we, if we look at it just by what is happening, removing the political reasons behind it, that's what I think most of us based our decisions on. And I get also, obviously I'm not speaking for everyone, but I think if I, for example, were to vote, and I think that's what Woody was trying to explain, is that probably I understand that being informed means taking into account every piece of information. But I guess also on the flip side is that we, if you remove the political reasons, I respect all your political reasons, and I'm not aware of the history, but I'm sure you guys have a reason to believe so. But the comparative here is that I guess if we were to be informed, would our decision change? I think I'm not exactly sure, but I think yes, communication can be better. And I think if moving forward as student representatives, we have to be aware of everything happening in the student body. But also, I think for
All right,
our
hey,
perspective,
I'm sorry. We got a lot of questions in here, so I'm sorry. I gotta cut you off. Right?
Yeah. You can cut me off.
Try to answer the questions in like 1 to 2 minutes if you can. But I did just hear you acknowledge that you're not sure of the vote that you did cast. You're kind of questioning it. You're not completely sure if you would have voted a different way, which, you know, I was kind of figured that would be the cause. Daniela?
Mine isn't a question, it's just more so something to add, but seeing as there are a lot of hands, I'll just let other people go, and if you can just come back to me.
All right, Sarah?
Thank you, Carl. I didn't have a question. I just more had a statement, just because I think like many other council members, I am worried about the precedent that this sets for just the distribution of funds from bypassing USAC and sort of really disrupting the checks and balances of our current system. So I guess, and I just wanted to draw attention to that. And then also, yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Steven, I see you got your hand raised.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm currently the alumni rep, but I did serve on the ASU Slave Board of Directors for 2 years. I just wanted to kind of add my own kind of external insights here. I think it's very clear that there was a lack of communication that can be easily corrected. There's no reason why there can't be a direct line of communication between the board and USAC. But I do want to say that I think it's important to recognize what ASU-CLA even is. And to me, ASU-CLA is a parent organization. It's a nonprofit business that is a parent for both USAC and GSA. And so when we talk about fiduciary responsibility, I think it's important to recognize the fact that these decisions, it's not just that this liability is a decision that's made by USAC. Like, this actually has ramifications for the entire organization of ASU-CLA and potentially GSA as well. So I think likely if I was not in the meeting, but likely if I was there, I would have expected to be kind of told that kind of line of thought, that that these decisions affect the entire organization. And I do think it is in the purview of the board to make a decision like this under certain circumstances, because it is the parent organization. But I do think, like as Carl mentioned, this is something that there's no reason why, if it was a decision that was lasting for like 4 months back to November, at some point there could have been a direct line of communication between both parties.
All right, thank you. Felicia?
Hi, thank you. Hi, my name is Felicia. I'm putting my daughter to bed. I'm a graduate student rep on the board of directors for ASUCLA, and I'm sorry I was joined the call late, so I didn't hear from the beginning. But I just wanted to share, kind of, speak to some of what the points of that been brought up, especially Alicia. I think that, and Carl, you're doing a really, really great job also just communicating what your concerns were. I think that's something that, I don't know the reasons, but wasn't communicated well to us, to echo the points that Stephen raised. I think this is my second year serving on the board of directors, and the first year was remote. And, one of the things that we came in, or that my cohorts and I came in last year, was really wanting to understand, the scope of everything. And I think, as Stephen pointed out correctly, we are guided to also watch over the financial arm of the nonprofit and the services and the employee. I chair the personnel committee, and we have 1,200 student employees. And I just want to say, as a student rep, the reason why I'm here, I know the reasons why my colleagues are here. We're super here because our concern is the students and student well-being. And I know I can speak for myself, but I'm fairly confident for my graduate student reps that we wouldn't have made that vote if we didn't think that it wasn't going to serve students. I think we didn't have this proper information about what the reasoning was behind. I can say for myself, I really didn't fully understand what the reasoning was behind. And I think that this is a conversation that I'm going to take back to the full board. And I know Murat will as well. Because our number one priority really is we want to uplift students. How do we do that through our organization? It's really a complex process, which I think Woody outlined well. But I wanted to just say, I'm really grateful for y'all hosting this space and bringing us here, and Carl speaking so respectfully with us, because we all feel really conflicted, and it's a difficult situation to navigate. But it helps to have these spaces where we can kind of communicate the different experiences and perspectives that we brought to this situation, kind of how we can also go forward. I think that one of the things that I'll be bringing as a representative will be to strengthening communication and transparency between ASUCLA as this parent sort of entity and GSA and USAC as governance parts of this, because ultimately we are a student union, not just a nonprofit. And I think that that's something that we can do better and push for. So I think that's pretty much what I gotta say. I'm gonna be here. If there's other questions, please just call my name. I'll be staying on the call.
Juan?
I am gonna actually hold off. I'll come back and raise my hand again in a while.
All right, Danielle, are you ready?
Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly bring up the CRC and the SIOC and bringing them back into the conversation, because I feel like right now the conversation has really revolved around USAC and ACLA BOD's relationship, but really these two committees are at the center of why this issue. So just piggybacking from what Alicia brought to the floor by addressing the history earlier, and what Carl added by raising the resolution, addressing that there's a history there, and also building from what the rest of council members have mentioned tonight, that they've expressed there's just a lack of education around the floor. So another thing that I wanted to add is that, again, as a reminder to you all, I do have appointments to both the CRC and the SIOC. From checking in with my CRC appointment, Ashley, around the time that I had come to learn that you, Carl, are creating a committee within USAC, I had also learned from Ashley that the CRC and the SIOC are creating their own committee to compartmentalize the issues of the CPO to talk about it. So I just bring that to your attention, and I did include that in my officer reports as soon as I had come to learn of this new information, to make it aware to all of you and the public that there are more stakeholders beyond those that are sitting on this call right now that are actively working to find a resolution for this issue. And it's important that we include them in these conversations moving forward, and keeping everybody in the loop, ensuring that everybody has equitable access to education about each entity's history, because it is true, there are ramifications. I believe that one of the BOD appointments had mentioned that there are ramifications on the ASUCLA I think it was Stephen, and the organization due to their duties. There are probably ramifications as well, as we've mentioned, for USAC in terms of the precedent that this decision sets for future councils. But more importantly, there are real and actual ramifications for the student leaders who are leading these committees, but also for the students that are being served by them. So I just wanted to bring that back into the picture.
Eliana.
Thanks. Yeah. I think everything Daniela said is very important. And actually, we do have Simone Anderson, who's one of the relevant stakeholders on the call, if anyone wants to promote her. So if y'all want to do that, that'd be cool. But I was also wondering if any of y'all do feel, from the board of directors, do feel like there was a bit of naivety in terms of how you approached it, in terms of like, it sounds like from what you were being told, like that would have implied you see that USAC was acting just for no reason, or for insignificant reasons or inadequate reasons. Did y'all wonder, is there something more to this story? And if not, are you thinking maybe you should try and ask those sorts of questions more in the future?
Yeah, Woody.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Ileana, in response to your question, I think it is without doubt that I feel like no one on this call is like views this situation of like acting like, just acting out of crazy or something, I mean, obviously with better communication, we would have understood the level of depth to which you all are coming from on the whole situation. But I mean, like as most of the members who also talked about this have mentioned, like it would have been, yeah, there's like lack of education all around the space, undoubtedly, that we should acknowledge and recognize. But I do also like want to re-echo, and I think Felicia mentioned this earlier, is that the vote that we did, the action that we took on this it was never with the intent of like malintent towards like USAC or towards students. Again, the way it was presented and the way we understood it was within the scope of like, hey, what we're doing is to help students in whatever way possible. I mean, obviously now we're realizing that we all see that from a very different perspective. And it could have been helpful to like understand how the various perspectives that we see towards this issue. But I definitely would say like across the board, like on your end and from our end, I don't think, I mean, I speak for myself. I mean, for me, it's like, I see this as, yeah, students are paying money that should be going to certain entities and it's not going there. I mean, just trying to like emphasize students' stake by the money that they pay into their union as well. And understanding that you all are not holding bonds just because you want to do that, like you mentioned, Ileana. I mean, going forward, we can strive to better understand why we're all, taking actions the way we are. But I definitely want to say and re-echo everyone, the decisions that we made up until this point is like, hey, bring in students, put in students at the sole purpose of it because I mean, we work in a lot of stuff on the board, and across all that in our meetings and everything all the time, it's like, how do you prioritize students? How do we put students first? And this decision, to the best of our knowledge that it was taken, was under that same account in Notion as well. I don't know if that answers your question, Leanna.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. I just want to say, like, I'm just very conflicted tonight because, you know, I hear on one end ASUCLA BOD saying that they have a fiduciary responsibility. And I understand that. I'm just curious, you know, where was this same attitude when USAC complained about the financial responsibilities and the lack of transparency from CPO? Like, where was ASUCLA BOD then? I mean, why didn't you support the resolution or support USAC getting more transparent documents from CPO? Right? I mean, you stated yourself, Woodia, that, yeah, this is about prioritizing the students, and you're correct. We're sending $2.7 million over to a group of individuals who don't even give us the funding documents that we want. We don't know how they're spending the money. You say, yeah, as a student yourself, you put $290. Yeah, exactly. We want to make sure that the money that you're sending that is being used for what it's earmarked for, which we haven't been getting those funding documents. And so that's the problem that I have with this, because I understand you have a fiduciary responsibility. Yeah, that's true. But where was this last year? I mean, we didn't get any support from ASUCLA BOD. They didn't reach out at all when students for years have been complaining about the transparency documents that they've been asking for from CPO. They haven't gotten. You know, where's the fiduciary responsibility then? Where's the support for USAC? So that's why I'm upset about that. And the biggest reason I'm upset is the nature in which, as I stated before, I mean, this was a secret meeting that we didn't even hear about from our undergraduate representatives. I mean, you represent council. We appointed you. You're supposed to give us an update if something that big happens, and it didn't happen. And that does set a dangerous precedence, that you can just go and overturn a decision that council makes in a secret vote and then don't tell us at all. Like, are we not supposed to be upset about that? Are we not supposed to hold ASUCLA accountable? Yeah, Daniela.
I apologize if this has been clarified prior. I feel like it probably has, but I just put it in the chat, and there's a line from the resolution that was signed last year. If someone could just please explain why it is that in 1988, we were able to withhold fees for up to 3 years, but now we can't let it carry over from one prior fiscal year?
I don't think any of us have the answer to that question right now, but I think it's a pretty valid question. And if you'd want, like, I can investigate and get an answer for you.
I think Roy mentioned at the last council meeting that Roy had spoken to somebody at the presidential reunion that Carl attended, and it was a simple misstep or something like that. Like, it was never supposed to happen. But yeah, if Roy can provide more context, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Roy, if you want to speak specifically to the 3-year thing.
Yeah, I talked to this guy, Bob Alvarez, who is cited in your resolution. I didn't know that he had been cited in that resolution, but when I heard that word at the President's Reunion, I said, hey, I want to talk to you. And when I got a chance, I talked to him. What he explained had happened was that at a certain point, some financial official at ASUCLA approached him, the FICOM chair, to say, hey, we just found that 2 years of fees, and this is back when it wasn't, so as much money as it is now. It was a smaller fee, earlier in time. That it was brought to him that the fees inadvertently had not been dispersed to the proper department. And they asked him if he would sign off on sending it over. And then he said, well, that's when I wanted to ask questions. Well, what are we doing with this? What are they, wanting to ask the transparency questions you guys are asking now? So, that 3rd year seemed to have been when he was made aware of it and the transparency questions he was asking for. So it didn't seem to be an intentionality that started in year 1, went into year 2, went into year 3, but rather 2 years of And something recent, something happened like that with your fees a few years ago, in which they didn't know where to send the Bruin Dash fee, and it collected in an account, and we had to say, hey, you guys, where's our money? So that was inadvertent, not intentional.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Alicia?
I just want to respond to what Woodia said, just in defense of your decision, saying like, sorry, I'm a little foggy because I'm tired, but you were saying how like this is money students pay for. I mean, students have fees for to give to their services. But if you knew why we're withholding these fees, you would know we don't want this money to go to CPO. We don't want this money to go to to be in the hands of Antonio Sandoval, who I don't want to get into it right now, but like the CPO, the amount of harassment that students have to face from said communities they're supposed to be supporting, and the amount of like hostility that there is in that building is like one of the reasons why. And I'm really upset that you don't understand like the context for why there's money being withheld and why why this action acts as political pressure and acts as like an act from students to hold accountable the community programs office. It's really ridiculous to me that no one in BOD like took the time to understand why this decision was made in the Undergraduate Student Association Council last year.
Yeah, Woodia?
Yeah, I just want to like respond to Alicia's comment. And first of all, I 100% acknowledge everything that you just said, Alicia. Like I resonate with it so much and understand. I mean, to a certain point, we're not informed to a certain extent of everything. And I just want to say personally, like I supported a lot of like, student advocacy on this point, just from my own personal like opinion and like, personal politics, which again, I cannot bring into my role. And I just want to say, I mean, to the points that you're making, I mean, those are, claims that are very like, to an extent that are very like horrible or horrid to an extent that no institution should be going through, or funds should not be going to certain things. And for me, for example, as like an average student, other than my role, it's like, hey, if I'm understanding that, like, hey, I'm paying money to go to certain services, but they're not going to that. And student leaders are saying, like you've mentioned, Alicia, that, actually your money is going to fund things that are not supposed to be funding, things that are just like so outrageous, then maybe it's like, okay, well, time to like rethink about this. And I think this is like not education that only me would benefit from, but like the entire student body in terms of understanding like, hey, these are monies that you all been being paid. We want you all to like understand why we're not just withholding these funds just because we want to withhold them, but we want to make you understand that these are monies that you're being paid. They're not going to like where you think it's going to, you know what I mean? I mean, for us, like we're privileged to be in this setting right now, to like learn right now. I'm learning a lot more right now from everything that y'all are saying. When a lot of students, I fear, do not have that perspective. And maybe going forward, I mean, this is something like Carl, like I know you're bringing up a committee right now, and Daniela mentioned that they're bringing up a committees within SIOC and CRC to like help support this issue. But maybe going forward, this is something too that y'all can also propose. Maybe it's time if everyone just like could vote on it to understand what's going on, and maybe redirect how we use our funds for like students' transparency to us students as well, to understand like, hey, the money you're given is going to certain things. And instead of just like us holding it off to make sure it doesn't go to those being malutilized to a certain extent, then maybe it's best if you all hold back your money to a certain extent, because again, I think it does set like a precedence to people who don't understand what's going on if the money is just held in place without like them understanding exactly. I mean, now we are privileged to be in this space to understand why it's been withheld. But when you look at it from like, a fiscal standpoint, which is, which sells it short, like you all have mentioned, like you cannot just look at it that way without considering the political context. It sells it short. You just see that, oh, from the average student, I just explain this to anyone you see on campus, like, hey, what do you feel about like your money? You're paying money for this, but it's being withheld. But these people have their reasons why it's being withheld and stuff. But that's just something I just wanted to bring to your attention all as well. And I acknowledge what you're saying, Alicia. And maybe that's something y'all can like invite into the conversations that you're having on like how best, you know, we y'all can attend to like the issues that you're bringing up with about like these fees being utilized for things they're not intended to, and how best that can be approached without having to like withhold the funds in place, not affecting ASUCLA, which is like a parent organization, like Stephen mentioned, that we all are part of, USAC is a part of, because there are ramifications for withholding that money for USAC, for ASUCLA as well. But just like seeing what are some alternative measures that can be put out to ensure that's not happening, while advocating for all these things that are so super important.
Thank you. I just think at the end of the day, and we're wrapping this conversation up because we could talk about this all night. I think at the end of the day, you know, the students that are appointed to ASUCLA BOD are responsible to USAC. I hear all the parent company, I hear all that stuff, but you know, we appointed you to be a voice, to be an extension of USAC, to at least take our account into, you know, issues that are being voted on that affects us. And that wasn't done. That wasn't done. You know, no one reached out to us to get our input on this or get our insight. I mean, you just made a decision based off of information told by, you know, individuals who are biased towards this. And that's the thing, your USAC appointments, because you have to put the political aspect in it. That's why you're appointed by USAC. If you weren't, then you just go for a regular hire. You just, who has an economics degree? All right, boom, you're on the BOD. You're appointed by USAC in order to help USAC out and to speak on our behalf and update us about stuff. And that didn't happen. And that's ridiculous. And I appreciate all of you for coming today and expressing, you know, that the communication was poor on your behalf, because that's true. It was poor on your behalf, but I appreciate you for coming. Furthermore, I just want to say that what happened is probably the most egregious overstep of USAC oversight, like in the history of USAC, probably. In the history. Like literally we get voted to represent students and to control the budget. And that oversight was overstepped, and it set a dangerous precedent. And so we have to hold ASUCLA accountable. We have to. And so I just wanted to say that I really do appreciate everyone that did come today. Like, you know, this isn't, you know, anything personal. I feel like you all, from what I've spoken to, are very, you know, and not in a bad way, but you're kind of ignorant to a lot of the stuff that's currently going on. Like, you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And you've been told to think about it from a certain way, which is incorrect. And I know that there are individuals within ASUCLA that do know the context behind it, that still chose to bring this before you, and that's the executive director. Woody, you can say one last thing, and then we're going to move on to the next thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sorry about taking up time. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, like, you know, it's totally understandable, like the frustration that happened, you know, everything. And I just want to say, like, again, we were under the context that you all understood what was happening. Like, even after that vote, if like I had met you somewhere and like that conversation had been brought up in a certain way, I would have said it, like, you know, like, hey, that's what happened again. Because again, for me, I don't think this was particularly a secret, you know, it's just like the way things just unfolded in such a way that just comes up like as very like shady, which I do recognize. And like from last Monday as well, I apologize for like, hey, I'm so sorry about like, you know, how this transpired, and going forward, this is something that we're going to work on. And this is something I brought to the attention of the board as well. And I just want to ask you this question now at the end of this, to wrap up this conversation, and every other board, I mean, not every other board, but every other council member on here as well, is like, how, after acknowledging this, how do we move on from here? I mean, how do we move on from here and understanding, like, you know, our relationship going forward? What are some next steps to take? I mean, because I feel like at this point we've gone through the stages of like acknowledging the problem, going through it, trying to be educated on it as well. This has been a learning process for us all. And I just want to understand, like, how do we go on from there? Because I just don't want to like leave this meeting tonight and be like, okay, we talked to council. It's like, okay, what did you learn from council? What are the next steps? You know, like, how do we go from there? And that's just something I want to open to everyone to, you know, answer and see again.
Naomi?
Yeah, thank you. And definitely thank you for raising that. I'm always like thinking like, okay, we talk about this, but now where do we go? So I don't quite remember what other council member, I think it was Danny that mentioned like we're supposed to be getting reports from BOD, the undergraduates. I'm not sure if that's exactly like what was stated like in responsibilities wise, but I think that'd be a great way to kind of like see what's going on, or if one of y'all can come to council meetings like a certain amount of times, or I don't know how it would look like, but I think that would be a great way in establishing like some communication with the elected officials, and just so we can stay updated on what's going on, because that definitely could have helped with this situation. But yeah.
Eliana?
Hi. So I was thinking, based on the many problematic aspects of the decision, we should try and get the student affairs, I think, to actually give the money back. If you'd be willing to be like, yes, that's justified. We were pressured and misled on this decision, and like, hey, you need to actually give this money back over to those who have authority over it, then yes, that would actually fix things as much as is possible.
Danielle?
I want to start off by thanking you all for coming tonight. I know it's been a long conversation. I also do hear that you all made recognitions and commitments in a way to be more dedicated to opening up lines of communication with USAC. So I would appreciate that as an action to move forward, but I would also like for BOD to commit to at least attempting at building relationships with the CRC and the SIOC, and for you all to also institutionalize a practice so that those of you who, for example, are about to graduate and end your terms for BOD at any given point, to pass down that knowledge to future BOD appointments so that there's never this issue again where there's ignorance about community conditions and community stakeholders.
Yeah. And I guess just final word on this is obviously like the action has already happened. I don't know how feasible it is to rectify it in regards to administratively getting the fees back that we withheld. But we're definitely going to hold ASUCLA accountable. I mean, we have to. I mean, this is just like a gross overstep. And I think just going forward, you know, in the future, if for whatever reason, you know, USAC decides to withhold some funds for something, you know, maybe reach out to us and see why we're withholding 2.7 million. Like, we're not trying to sabotage students or the student body in any shape, form, or fashion. I mean, we were elected by them. We appointed, you know, you all to your positions. And so, yeah, I guess just next time, just, you know, reach out and let us know, hey, we're having a vote on this. But I also think that you all were played a bit in regards to the executive session, which I'm not sure who makes the decision. Who makes it? Roy, can you speak to that? Who makes the decision in regards to whether a meeting goes into executive session or not? Could you speak to that?
I would say it's, I guess, the combination of the executive director and the chair of the board. So there's a executive committee, which is the chair, vice chair, secretary, and the executive director. And they plan.
So you know who specifically decided to have this go into executive session?
Not specifically at that group. I mean, I think it would be decided board meetings, and the board's actions are decided by that 4-person group.
Okay, but you did say the executive director is involved in it, correct? Okay, thank you. All right. Well, we'll be moving forward. Thank you all so much for coming once again. Really appreciate you. You know, this isn't an easy topic to discuss. I really appreciate you all for coming. You know, you all were very respectful and, you know, just very transparent. I appreciate it. You know, we'll do some bylaw changes or something to ensure that, you know, nothing like this ever happens again. But yeah, we really appreciate everything. And, you know, we'll be reaching out, you know, pretty soon regarding other things, because like I say, at the end of the day, it seems like all of you just stated, everyone here just stated that the main groups that they should have at least had some information about, they didn't know about. They stated that they weren't aware of the committee that we formed, that USAC created to handle this issue. You stated that you weren't aware of the resolution that council passed last year in regards to the reason why we decided to freeze the funds. And some of you even recanted your vote in a sense. Some of you are unsure of the vote that you cast. So thank you so much. We'll be moving forward to officer reports. All right, so first up, for me this week, I had a cabinet meeting with my cabinet. We kind of discussed UCLA Mardi Gras and, you know, planning that out with the Office of Communications. So we're working with Vice Chancellor Mary Osaka for that. I'll be meeting with the Chancellor soon regarding that. Had a meeting with the CFO today regarding this situation in particular, specifically the initial problem behind the reason why this whole freeze started was regarding transparency documents that haven't been, you know, given in the nature in which they should by CPO. And she said that she would work with me in order to get those documents that we want in the format that we want, so that there's more transparency. So we're working with the CFO of UCLA for that, because she was kind of unaware of this situation as well, as she is also a new appointment to her position. Also, I think I discussed this last week, had a meeting with Andy from the LGBTQ+ Center regarding the deficit that they're about to go. I think I spoke about this at the last council meeting. So I'll be bringing my surplus proposal, Andy's surplus proposal to council next Tuesday regarding that. And yeah, you know, my office just kind of, you know, finished up our planning for events in springtime. And yeah, I'll hand it off to you, Milan, Internal Vice President.
Hi, everyone. Sorry wait, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry. Like my audio and internet keeps cutting in and out. Let me know if I ever cut out or like disconnect. But for my office, our main thing right now is the Campus Safety Alliance meeting, which will be Friday, March 3rd. So this Friday from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. It'll be an open meeting so anyone can attend, like I said before. Again, we have the question forum that I think is posted on our Instagram, but I can also link it in the chat. Wait, let me see if I can like copy it. Okay. For if you have any questions regarding campus safety, you can fill it out there. Even if you can't make it to the meeting, we'll ask those questions for you. Here we go. There's a question forum. And then we'll be sending out more details for like participating administration members soon. Other than that, we're working on our surplus presentations for our rent relief awards, IVP partnership fund, and campus safety fund potentially. And then we're also working on our finals de-stress events, which are just fun events that we put on for the student body to like help people de-stress during finals. And then lastly, I'm working personally on the USAC social that I emailed you all about. So if you've gotten that email, please fill out the Google form if you're going. This should be really, really fun. And like, thank you, Lori. And then also, I think Jessica, I reached out to you about like catering potentially and how to use our retreat funds to do that. Yes, come visit us in Cali. And then, yes, and I think the only thing we need to do right now is like catering. So if Jessica could respond to me in my email when you get the chance. But that should be all, and I'll pass it off to Divine.
Hi, folks. So for this week, I just attended earlier a UA meeting, which within UCSA. Continuing having lobby core meetings, prepping for the student lobby conference that's happening in the second week of March, I believe. So just prepping folks that are in lobby corn to prep them for Sacramento. Also, in terms of SLC, the Student Lobby Conference, we booked hotels and figured out the transportation situation for last week. So we are basically all set for the trip. We're having a mentor / mentee things for our winter fellows coming up, I think tomorrow actually. So that will be fun, and kind of wrapping up our winter quarter fellowship kind of thing. Local team had a lobbying meeting with Katie last week as well, and it went really well as an introductory / lobbying meetings, and we'll continue to build strong relationships with her and her team. And then, there's flyering happening with the Sepulveda Transit Corridor last week and this week. So if you see anyone from me or my team this week and last week, please say hi. And yeah, that's it for me.
Hey everyone. So this week it's been a lot of working on my proposal for surplus to get free Lyft rides. So today I met with the Director of Transportation. I met with Mike Cohn and I met with Roy to figure out different ways we could use it and different ways we could implement it so it could be shown to as many students as we can. I've been working on having a feedback form so I could post. So if anyone needs anything from my office, we could help them with that. And then we're just working more with making our Instagram more transparent and making it more accessible. So that's been this week. And looking forward to meeting with a couple of you this week to talk about our proposals.
Gen Rep 3.
Thank you so much. I've also been working on my surplus proposal, got a bunch of people who want to be mentors in the disability peer mentoring program and program coordinators, and some folks who want to be mentored. So very excited for that. What else? We had All Brains in my office co-sponsored a mindfulness social, which happened yesterday, so that was cool. And what else? Just been talking with a lot of people about the small CPO situation, trying to do my part to educate myself and try and help develop our response to this. Also, had a great meeting with Melissa Blaze Abraham, one of the sole advisors, and she and I were thinking we could do like regular socials, just meet at 580 Cafe, maybe like 11:30 to 12:30, and hang out amongst ourselves and with her, because she has a lot of great knowledge and support for students. So that'd be cool. Yeah, I guess that about covers it. And thanks as always to all of you and to our community for your support.
Campus Events Commissioner.
Hi everyone. I'll be doing a surplus proposal with Alicia later on. But just for some heads up on events we have coming up, we have a screening of Mad Max Fury Road tomorrow night in the Melnitz Theater. And then on Friday we have the TikTok star Devin Hallball coming to speak in Kirchhoff Grand Salon. And then next Monday from 12 to 1, we have a DJ playing on vinyls. He's like a Brazilian DJ playing on Kirchhoff patio in promotion of our Synthetica concert on March 7th. And then the last event is next Tuesday. We have a screening of Clue also in the Melnitz Theater. That's about it.
Community Service Commissioner.
Everyone, so for CSC, we are going to have such a jam-packed quarter these next coming weeks. Can I get screen sharing permission? I want to share a quick resource. Sure, perfect. Thank you. CSC is hosting a basic needs town hall on March 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. in Haynes Hall, Haynes Room 39. And basically, the town hall, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focused on creating dialogue and kind of like be more a little bit action oriented towards building partnerships and coalitions between student groups, specifically student groups that address food insecurity and houselessness at UCLA. We're going to have special presentations from Swipe Out Hunger and Bruin Shelter, and which are CSC projects that are going to present about their work and how we can partner with them. But then in the working groups and the solution building sections of our presentation, we're going to be having more robust conversations facilitated by our CSC staff among all of the student groups that attend as to how we can like build partnerships and coalitions, specifically for the intention of building solidarity, building a kind of like movement to work in unison with each other. So I invite everyone to please RSVP. Here's a QR code if you would like to RSVP via your phone if you're watching this recording. But I also, I'm gonna be also sending we're making a post tomorrow morning, early in the morning with all of these flyers and updating our UCLA CSC.org website with the all the town hall details, going a little bit more in depth. But if you scan this QR code, it'll go to a Google form that has all the components of what the town hall is going to entail. This is the first in a series, and it's going to be building up to a service conference in the spring quarter. And I highly encourage all the council members to sign up, and specifically council members to attend, because it will allow you to be in partnership and in sharing space with a bunch of student leaders, with the intention of building systemic change towards being more collaborative and intentional of how we do community service work and how we serve disadvantaged communities. So I invite you all. I'll be emailing out all council members additional marketing material tomorrow morning. Our marketing team is going to contact you all, your offices, to help with all of that. So that's one of the biggest things that CSC is working on this quarter. We are also doing our Impact conference. So Impact is the nation's largest civic engagement conference. And this Thursday night, we are leaving to Amherst, Massachusetts, for the conference. So the flights, hotels, and all the logistics have been planned. So it's going to be an exciting week for the CSC and the UCLA delegates that are going to this conference. And that is, and then we're organizing a little orientation meeting for our fellows who joined us last week. So we're going to be engaging them and embedding them into CSC and our community. So yeah. Thank you all so much.
Facilities Commissioner.
Hi, I'm not going to give all of my updates just because the meeting's been going. But as some of y'all know, the Transportation Equity and Access Committee has reached out to a lot of you to get feedback on the transit referendum that we are trying to run to get universal transit passes for all UCLA students at a super, super duper reduced and discounted price. And yeah, I think they're trying to present it through council, I think after surplus allocations. So that is going to be happening. Our Building Our Space Committee had their meeting with Assistant Vice Chancellor of Facilities Management, Kelly Schmader. He's so cool. Really encourage everyone to collaborate with him. But they talked about a lot of different things, such as like getting a prayer space on campus. They're working with MSA on that still. They're still trying to do the YRL space activation. Oh, but a new project that they have is that one of our committee members, Katie, she came up with this great idea to have like these laminated waterproof signs in the UCLA bathrooms, like just like a how-to do like body check for like, you know, like tumors, and making sure like people like are checking themselves out before any like medical conditions arise. And I think it's really cool because her last project was doing menstrual stickers instead of like feminine product stickers. So I just really appreciate all of her work and her great ideas for the committee. And then on the, oh my gosh, route access van was another call that we had with UCLA Transportation and CE earlier this week, and just learning more about like who uses it, knowing that it's like the same app as like UCLA Safe Ride, trying to see if we can expand the services of Britain Access, what kind of pilots there are. Apparently at this time, like a surplus proposal might not necessarily be needed, but we're going to keep on working with them and seeing if we can like expand this into a long-term project to increase accessibility to students with mobility access needs on campus. And then what else? Oh yeah, and then we were talking about the Disability Cultural Center, which is kind of like in line with Eliana's idea for disability mentoring. There was funding for the Disability Cultural Center set aside by surplus in previous year, after like there's like some crowdfunding mishap where like a lot of student money got lost, but then they like applied a surplus. So I'm gonna see later with Jessica to see if like that, or Linda from SGA to see if that funding is still available or whether or not I still need to apply to surplus for it. And then like one sad piece of news this week was the associate CAE director got hired, but it wasn't exactly the choice that the students were making, and we didn't get very much feedback on like why it was the case. You know, they announced in the UCLA Committee on Disability meeting that like they knew that like this person wasn't the ideal choice, but I just think it's a shame that they weren't able to choose the other candidate that students were looking for, that was like a person of color, that was like really like proud and like recognized their own like disability, and like was also like speaking on an issue about like medical documentation, and like also like really emphasizing that students with like life experience and like taking that into account, and not just whether or not they have the proper documentation, because sometimes there's a lot of barriers to getting that documentation. So I guess there's going to need to be a follow-up on that, just because the outreach wasn't exactly there, and I'm not exactly sure if the items written in the letter to the follow-up to our resolution were necessarily passed, but hopefully there'll be more updates in weeks to come on whether or not there's any solutions for that.
Financial Supports Commissioner.
Hi all. Sarah had to go, but I'm gonna drop her report in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Next up we have transfer student representative. I don't know. I think Tara wasn't able to come today.
I have her updates.
Okay.
Sorry, let me pull them up. So Tara wants to say special thanks to Juan for allowing her to sit on the CSC meeting. She said it was very helpful. She said she finally got access to the TSR email and got Teddy's contact info from a peer in the Transfer Student Center. She also had a meeting with the Transfer Triad with TSC and TLC on Friday. They'll be meeting again this week to start working on collective initiatives. So go her. Okay, she's also reaching out to Jessica for surplus funds proposals. Specifically would like to provide assistance to POC transfer admit weekends, as she stated before. She also met with DAWP, I'm not sure what that stands for, sorry y'all, last Friday to let them know that they should be supporting transfers more adequately. Slide.
All right, International Student Representative.
Hi guys, good evening. So this week I started off by meeting with Idris, who's director for Transport and Res Life, and he offered some really great resources for our website. And then we had a really nice discussion about making pickup and drop off much more easier for international students when they land in the airport. So like UCLA sends their buses. So there's a lot of scope in that proposal, and I'll be like writing it down. So in case anyone wishes to work on that, please do like reach out to me. After that, I met with Abby, who's working with the first year experience, and she gave me some more insights on how we can like better our website and ideas we can incorporate. She also shared more resources that they had specifically created. that we could put in on our website. And then I've been working with FAC on their unlimited transport proposal, and they'll be coming to USAC in a few weeks. So we're just trying to get that text down. And I'm also working on my office's surplus proposal, and specifically on how I can get my staff paid from that. And then Dashu Center today organized a really nice webinar on like financial literacy, specifically catering to international students, which was really helpful. And then in the coming week, I'll also be meeting with the ISWAL committee. And aside from that, this week for me in my office, we'll be working on the ideas that basically Idris and Abby shared and just getting that collated into our website. So yeah, that's it for me. But in case someone does want to work on that proposal for the buses, please do reach out to me. I think it's a great idea and I'd really appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Okay. Also, Councilmember, just a heads up, like we're voting on surplus proposals next Tuesday. So we can just go knock it out before, we get into finals and all that other stuff. So, please have those drafted, talk to Jessica and reach out to other council members if you got questions or concerns. But yeah, let's try to have that Tuesday so we can go ahead and, figure that out. All right, Admin Reps, Orlando.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. No updates today.
All right, Jessica.
Hi all. The only main update I have for student government services is just that we have hired and are currently onboarding a couple new student staff who are going to be working in SGS just with general support of student government and USAC. So, hopefully at some point we can have them attend one of these meetings just to introduce themselves and say hello to you all, so that that there's a face behind the SGS at ASUCLA email. But yeah, definitely continue to reach out to us if you need any help or support with anything for your offices. We're always happy to meet if need be, but they're also a really great resource and can help put in requests and get things done if Fernando or I are not available. So I just want to put that out there, that we are onboarding them right now. And hopefully within a few weeks, they'll be fully trained and able to start helping support council with whatever y'all need. Thanks.
Stephen.
Hi, everyone. Two quick items. One, the alumni quarterly meeting, the alumni board quarterly meetings actually this Saturday. So if you have anything that you'd like me to bring up to the board at that point, feel free to contact me by email or phone. And then the second point I wanted to make, I just wanted to say, I think emotions ran a little high today, and I completely understand all the frustrations. I truly do. I do feel like the meeting was somewhat targeted, and at some points, unfortunately, a little bit condescending. And so I just want to put this out there that I think we need to kind of consider how to approach this going forward. I don't think this is entirely the board of directors' fault. I think there's some room for introspection on behalf of USAC, and I would like to challenge the council to kind of think about what can be done differently. I would like to say, like, more specifically, this might be somewhat controversial, but these types of decisions, I don't really think are necessarily fully in the purview of USAC. And I say that is because these have broad implications that go beyond USAC. I think one possible room for improvement here is last year, a specific conversation should have actually occurred between USAC and the board of directors prior to any funding initiative saying that we're going to withhold funds. That's my personal opinion, because these have broad implications. Something to put on the table here is that UCLA took on over $25 million in debts over the last few years because of pandemic-related expenses. It's in the best interest of ASUCLA specifically at this point in time to be strong partners with the university. And so maybe there was a different way to approach this problem. I completely agree with you that they should be giving full transparency on how these funds are being spent. But maybe this wasn't the right approach, or there should have been transparency a year ago, not just over the last couple of months. So I just want to put this out on the table. I think there's room for introspection. I think it's wrong to entirely blame the board of directors. I agree that there was some ignorance and the decision was made and voted upon, and that might not have been the right action at this point in time, but I think it's wrong to blame the board of directors entirely. So just from an outside perspective, I think I really wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Stephen. I just want to say something real quick because, I kind of spoke with the CFO and I understand that, like, yeah, like ASUCLA took on $25 million worth of debt because they accepted money from UCLA and they didn't know that they had to pay it back apparently. But like, that's not our fault that Poirier or whoever decided to do that. That's not on us. And we shouldn't have to suffer in regards to having our voice overstepped because ASUCLA wants to build better relations with the university for their negotiations, because that's what they're doing. They're negotiating the 25 million that they owe, and they want to negotiate it so it gets lowered. That's not our problem. Okay, we didn't accept the 25 million. That's not on us.
I will say that it was actually a mandated expense. This came from the University of California, not UCLA or ASUCLA. It was mandated that they had to maintain the payroll liabilities for at least a year, and so a lot of this debt was forced on everyone. It wasn't a decision. So just to kind of set the record straight, I fully agree with you on so much, Carl, and I think that there's so much that needs to be changed in this particular scenario. We really need to improve communication. I think if there's quarterly reports that are supposedly due by board members, start collecting those. Start having regular meetings with the board, and vice versa. They need to start having regular meetings with you as well.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Lori?
I have nothing, and in the words of Naomi, slay.
All right, next up we have, old business from, I guess, last meeting, Article 7, 1. Hello, 1.
Hi there. I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that? My connection is unstable.
Yeah, we have on the agenda old business regarding Article 7, Section C. So the article that you brought up last council meeting.
There we go. Okay, yes. We CRC voted on it on a 3-0 vote. So I guess for just to recap, let me pull it up so I can share my screen. So I'm looking for the bylaw change that I'm asking for council to consider is adding the for Article 7, Section C on the Community Service Commission's surplus. The bylaw change that I'm looking for is the following: Community Service Commission mandatory student fees surplus shall be allocated to the Community Service Commission's fund for transportation for student service organizations and other initiatives managed by student government accounting. So just to recap, the purpose of this is to help CSC better support the program initiatives of both our commission as we're growing and adjusting from the transition from COVID-19 to new day in-person programming, as well as supporting all of the amazing work of our projects under our commission. So are there any additional questions or concerns that I might be able to answer at this time regarding this bylaw change?
All right, if not, can we get a motion?
I move to approve the bylaw change.
I second.
I second.
Eliana motions, Alicia seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, by 12-0 vote, the bylaw change is approved. All right, next we have new business. I see two, I think surplus proposals from Anna. Floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, I am going to share my screen. The first one, I'm presenting by myself, and then the other one we have a someone else from SWC joining me. All right, so I'm going to try and keep these a little quick since we are running quite late tonight. So the first one is going to be free STI testing at ASH for Bruins without UC ship. And this is a project sponsored by the SWC Planned Parenthood and Platforms Committee. All right. So these are the steps that UCLA students are able to take to prevent STIs. For prevention, we have barrier methods such as condoms and dental dams, and these can be found throughout campus at front desks on the Hill, Bruin Love Station, as well as given by our SWC committees. You are also able to test for STIs, and getting tested is the only way to be sure of your STI status. It's also available at ASH for all UCLA students. And then finally, there's treatment, and treatable STIs require immediate attention, and you can receive this treatment through ASH, which is the primary care center here on campus for those who don't know. And so how much does it cost UCLA students to get tested for STIs without UC ship? And so you have the rates here for chlamydia and gonorrhea. These are going to be screenings per site. So if you have like oral, that's going to be one. And then if you're going to be looking at your genitals, that's also another site. And so these tests can add up very quickly and cost Bruins upward of $300 for a full STI test, full panel STI test, according to the ASH Center website. So how often should UCLA students be testing for STIs? Here you have some stats: at least once a year for syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea, after every new partner and before every new partner, and then at least once a year for HIV. And this is according to the National Coalition for Sexual Health. So with all of this, it all adds up pretty quickly for UCLA students that do not have UCLA SHIP. And for background, UC SHIP is going to be the health insurance that students are automatically enrolled in here. On the left side, there's going to be UC SHIP coverage for undergraduates. In 2022, you have 53% of students who are covered by it. That's the unwaived, and then 47%, approximately half, which have waived it, so they're not going to be covered by the insurance that we have here on campus. So that's a pretty steep cost for college students to stay up to date on their STI status. Here are some more stats looking at specifically gonorrhea trends again amongst young women. You can see that there is a really large increase between 15 to 19-year-olds and college age young women 20 to 24. And this is according to the CDC in 2021. Right. Okay, and now here is a graph displaying the gonorrhea trends amongst young men. Here is an even larger jump, which is what we're trying to highlight here today to show how prevalent STIs can be in the community, especially when it comes to people becoming more of age and as they become more sexually active. So we're getting to the real meat of the presentation. The costs for 5 days of free STI tests from 2019 are highlighted here. And this is from the ASH Center. So the cost of these tests are around the same today, aside from HIV tests, which have gone down to $3 per test since 2019. And it costs approximately $49,500 to cover 5 days of free STI testing here at the university. So what our proposal is $50,000 from surplus funds to sponsor UCLA ASH Center to provide free STI testing to UCLA students without UC ship for 5 days. So that part is key because a lot of individuals may not have health insurance, which they shouldn't, because by waiving it, that means that you should have it, but that means that it's not necessarily local. So somebody could be from Seattle and their healthcare insurance only covers procedures in that area, which means that while they're here for the academic year, they aren't able to get the support that they need when it comes to their health and well-being. So why? It's a big financial concern for Bruins without UC ship, and it acts as a barrier to sexual health care access. Testing at outside clinics also costs extra time. Even if they do have insurance that covers them in LA, their clinic may be like an hour away with traffic. It might be difficult to get there. You don't have the funding to Uber or time to take the bus, because these can be some issues that busy students run into, and ones that we don't want to have this barrier here on campus. So this can help all Bruins by alleviating the financial strain and barrier to reproductive health care. It allows for easy follow-up treatment on campus because they're being treated by ASH, and it is right here. And then also to promote and destigmatize STI testing by marketing during Sex Week in April, where a bunch of reproductive health justice organizations come together to focus on prevalent health and issues during specifically regarding reproductive health. It also shows that we as USAC care about our students' reproductive health. So the distribution plan for this would be that the ASH Center provides over 1,400 free STI tests for Bruins without UC ship. So we're averaging approximately 10,000 per day for 5 days, which would be $50,000. And we're going to focus on serving Bruins without UC ship, so ones who are not able to get access to testing on campus for free. And then we have a variety of different ways that we plan on distributing it. So one is going to be collecting student information on Google Forms. This is to verify against records to confirm that they have waived UC ship, so that we are ensuring that that tests are going to the target audience. And then as the Student Wellness Commission, the Platforms Committee is going to be promoting this. And then it's going to be hosted at ASH during Sex Week at UCLA in April, when a lot of different organizations on campus are going to have events. So there will be a lot of traction so that people see that this is happening. And that is the end of this presentation. Thank you all for paying attention. Are there any questions? Okay. All right, thank you all. Feel free to Slack me if you do have them. And then now we're going to present.
And we're gonna probably vote on this one first, right?
Oh, are we actually like now?
Did you want us to vote on this now, or did you want us to vote on it next Tuesday when we do all of the proposals?
If people are down to vote, I'm ready to vote on it now. Like I feel like y'all.
Yeah, you got a question?
Yeah, I just thought that we listen to all the proposals and then vote on it after, because we don't know. Yeah, what Jessica just said. Like I thought, like in case that the proposals all like are asking for more money, then we want to like know which ones we prefer.
Okay. I mean, well, we don't have to do that. I mean, that's not like there's nothing in the bylaw that states we have to do that regarding surplus. Last year, there were certain things that we had to hurry up and get voted on. For instance, the books for Bruins, which I see is up also. We hurry up and voted that in because that was something that couldn't wait. But I see a couple council members saying that they want to wait.
Yeah.
What about, so for other individuals that currently have their surplus proposals, are any of these have is there like a time crunch on any of these? Yeah, Alicia?
For CAC and CC, we have to pay the remaining of the Bruin Bash bill, and it's been more than how many months? 6 months? Almost 6 months. So we would prefer if we could get our allocation this council meeting because it's urgent that I mean, Lori's here, she could attest to that. But that's just us.
Daniela.
Yeah, you mentioned Books for Bruins, and that is on the agenda tonight, and it is urgent only because, well, part of it is that the current state of the AAC budget is not the best if you all take a look at it, because we have been incurring all of the costs for Books for Bruins thus far, and that has really depleted our programming. And in addition to that, too, the lack of remaining funds to continue to rely on our programming and its depletion has led to us having to postpone now giving half of our students from winter quarter access to their funds, and it is now week 7. So that's like textbook costs that they have incurred now for 7 weeks.
All right. Keon?
Yeah, I understand that a lot of these have a time crunch. I just think that if we wait one more week and hear all the proposals, I personally would feel more comfortable knowing what I'm voting for, seeing all the different proposals and how much each different office is asking for what. So that's just my personal opinion. So I don't know how we would do this.
All right. So I understand that some people expressed interest in voting for it now. Are any of these proposals like an emergency? And it's like, if it's not approved today, like, students can miss out on the benefits of it, or, anything like, do these have to be voted on this week? Like, I know some people expressed that they prefer, but are there any of these that specifically, like, if not today, then it's like do or die? Okay, bet. All right, then what we could do, yeah, we can vote on, we could do the total ask next week. We could do the actual voting aspect of surplus next week. Once we hear every council member's voting proposal, and the way that will, surplus proposal. And then the way that will go is, sometimes the way this works is, if you don't totally disagree, if you don't totally like feel like you don't typically just say like, okay, this person's thing is just ridiculous, right? You say like, hey, maybe I don't feel comfortable giving it that much. Maybe we should give it this amount. But it's going to be up to, like I say, the council member has to, really plead their case in regards to why they need a certain amount, especially for, things that are, I mean, these are some great proposals up here, Books for Bruins, STI testing, obviously got to pay for Bruin Bash, and the basic needs. So these are important. But with that being said, for the individuals who do have their surplus proposal, I know, Anna, you just gave your first one. Do you all want to table it, since we won't be voting on it today? Do you want to table it so it's still fresh in everyone's minds on Tuesday when we do vote?
Could we vote? Could we do this presentation today? Because one of the presenters is here and has been waiting through the entire meeting. Is that,
Okay.
are you all right with that?
I mean, that's fine. I mean, they can't. I just wanted to, like, obviously everyone's going to be presenting next week, and so I didn't want like them to have to come back and do another presentation because people maybe didn't really remember what they said, or but if they want to go today, they can.
Okay, I just talked with them, and yeah, we can postpone until next week then.
Okay, by all means, if you want to do it, you can though. Okay. Also,
Okay.
Alicia and Giovanna, same for you. What are y'all thinking?
I mean, I'm down to just like present it now, and then I can just like remind the amount that we requested next week. I just feel like I'd rather get this out of the way and have one less proposal presentation next week.
Okay.
I agree. I also have other presentation proposals for other parts of CAC next week. So if we could do one of them, I mean this one tonight, that would be really good.
Okay. Well, you can go ahead and take it away.
Okay. I'm gonna share my screen.
All right. What? Oh, yeah, here we go. All right. So this is CAC and CEC's Brew and Bash surplus proposal. Been waiting to do this for a while, so we'll just go into it. Just in terms of like purpose and history, Brew and Bash is just like everybody kind of knows about this, but it's the annual interactive concert and festival. The purpose of the concert is to have good music and cultural enrichment. We featured numerous artists throughout the beginning of Brew and Bash that have gone on to win numerous Grammys, as listed below some past artists we've had. Even the artists we had this year like went on to prove to be like insane artists after. Also part of Brew and Bash is RecFest. This is kind of something that started where people went to go pick up their tickets, but throughout the years we've developed it a bit more, adding in student performances throughout the day activities as well as student vendors this year. And then I somehow forgot this, but there's also the enormous activities fair, which is a huge component to Brew and Bash as well. It happens the day after. And that's where basically every registered student organization can come and present themselves to like new and incoming students. The purpose of Brew and Bash overall is just to have fun and meet new people. It's a huge event for incoming freshmen and transfers to just like have something to do together. And it's also a fully student run event, which is unpaid work for the majority of students, well, I guess besides me and Alicia. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, and it basically acts as, for people who want to go into entertainment, a huge bonus on their resume to put this. But that's kind of the purpose. Just like quickly breaking down a little bit on the costs of Brew and Bash throughout the years to just kind of like give you guys a bit of context as to like how much we spent. But here are just some graphs like allocating how much we've spent in the past on honorarium. That's basically just like how much you pay an artist altogether. Total costs, that's including EAF and RecFest, and then sponsorship contributions as well. And then I've included the cost from 2021. There was not really a record to my knowledge for 2019's that I was able to find, and 2020's was virtual. So that's not really relevant here. But yeah, just so you guys know. Implementation, here's like a brief run through of like kind of how our summer looked. It seems nice, but it was hell. We basically started as soon as we were elected, and worked basically the entire summer, basically just trying to figure out artists that would work within our budget, and like just kind of all the logistics that go behind a concert of this size, as well as the other festivals that go along with it. So just a lot of details that work out. You're welcome to look through this. And then I've just like written down also like kind of a brief estimate of like how many hours worked, but just like kind of averaged it. It was definitely more than 20 hours a week, but I feel like that's fair. And just Dave show like the kind of hours that people are working for it. And again, just emphasizing like the only two people paid for this are me and Alicia, and there's a lot of work that goes behind it as well. And the pay that we receive is also like pretty shitty. Anyways, okay, next. Okay, I'll let Alicia take it from here.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for allowing us to present our proposal for surplus. As you can see, the cost of Brew and Bash cannot be fully covered by the referendum, with it not being tied to inflation and the struggles we had getting sponsorships, the struggles we had getting funding for it outside of the referendum. It was definitely a very hard year in terms of fiscally for us, and to work around it, especially because, like, for example, CAC hasn't had to contribute money to Brew and Bash for like at least the past 4 years. And this year it was the situation got dire to the point where I had to promise to apply to at least 8,000 on CAC's end, because with the 9 series that at least my commission has, I could not risk taking that sacrificing that out of my own series budgets with the amount of events we also have. But anyways, here is the funding breakdown. We got $109,502 with the Brew and Bash fee referendum. And we are applying for this amount of surplus, $82,103.71, which would leave CAC and CEC to not have to take this money out of our own budgets to pay for it. We also got $2,500 from the rec event fund. We got $2,000 from Westcom agreement. And the partnerships and contributions, we got a total to $38,000. And the Learfield sponsors provided $37,730 with 54 cents. So the total budget comes out to $271,836 dollars. This is the breakdown of the concert, Rec Fest, EAF, and marketing. And so this is the total cost of everything, of the 3 different events we had. If you all allocate this money to pay off this bill, CAC and CEC would not have to, I guess, put at risk their own programming to pay off this bill. So yeah, next slide. So here's another breakdown. Two is that we were only able to partially cover the cost of Brew and Bash, EAF, and Rec Fest altogether with the amount from the Brew and Bash referendum. The Rec Event Fund, security credits, and sponsorships gave us around $80,000 to work with. And so CEC and CAC provided the safety net of like promising to at least apply to overall $38,000 from our respective budgets to cover costs. So we're aiming to receive an amount from surplus that avoids this, so that we don't have to compromise our own programming. That is also very meaningful in different ways than it is from Brew and Bash's purpose and intention. And then I want to also emphasize that COVID inflation and the lack thereof of sponsorships and other expenses were very hard to work with this year. Performances, events, if any of you are familiar with putting these kinds of events on, it looks very different. Now that we're living in a pandemic, it looks very different, and the importance of it is much more magnified in a sense, and much more meaningful to people now that we've experienced a lack thereof of programming in the previous years and with the start of the pandemic. So we want to emphasize honoraria costs that our artists were charging much more, and the demand and the quotes we got are way higher. For example, Pink Panthers was $65,000. She's probably much more expensive now because we did get her before she blew up. And Raven Lene was $20,000. As you could see, we didn't have a third performer. We did have a student performer, but last year we had 3 performers. We had Rico Nasty, we had TK Mesa, and I'm forgetting the third artist.
Baby Tate.
Baby Tate. Oh my gosh, she just dropped a new song too. But yeah, so that also contributes to how hard it was to work with this budget. Also inflation, us as organizers saw disproportionate increases in production costs, especially comparing the different budgets and costs of facilities and services and logistics from previous years. and other numerous facets of our live event. And like I did some research into this because like if it affects us, it affects everywhere else. Like UCLA is a microcosm of society. And yeah, our referendum is not tied to inflation. So that also stands in our way of putting on the same quality shows every single year. So that was a very difficult hurdle to come across. Also, sponsorships, the time to work on them was limited. You could see the time, like the timing of like this event, planning it, like we were very crunched. Like May to September may seem like a long time, but it's not, with everything we have to do. And it's just me and Gio and some of our directors, but it's a lot of work. And one of the obstacles in our way from also funding this event was that we were not able to work closely with Mick DeLuca and the sponsorships team at Learfield. So exploring these sponsorships was so difficult, and we weren't even how do I say this? We weren't really in charge of them, if that makes sense. Like it was not a transparent process. And so we ended up receiving around $8,000 in total. So that was also really, really hard to have to work through. But yeah.
Yeah, I just want to like touch upon some things that Alicia mentioned as well. At least the biggest like increases in costs that I've noticed just from looking at Brew and Bash past budgets is an increase in the EAF cost. There was a jump from previous years costing around 16,000 to this year being 29,000. And this is something that I think moving forward, both CAC and CAC would definitely have a deeper look into, and as to specifically why there's such an increase in costs and how we can kind of work maybe with other organizations to lower this. Just because while we receive like a sponsorship amount of like 37,000, that's sponsorship amount is meant to cover EAF's cost, and then like whatever's left over is meant to go towards the concert itself. And so not really seeing an increase in the number of sponsorships or the amount compared to like 2018, when now the event is even more established and even larger of a production, is also interesting to notice. But definitely this EAF cost was like a huge increase. But I do want to like towards just showing how we went about budgeting, is showing like even with the inflation in artists, even with everything being costed more, we still maintained a cost for the event that isn't excessively above what it's costed in the past. In fact, I feel like we did an excellent job considering the prices of artists lately. So yeah, but I just want to kind of leave it for any questions that people may have, and see what you guys think.
All right, does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this surplus proposal? I mean, obviously, we're going to vote on it next week. So if you review it, if you do have any questions, concerns, or feedback you want to give next week, just bring that to the next meeting. All right, and then Daniela, did you want to go?
Yeah, I actually just touched base with my retention first directors, and we've agreed to table the discussion for next week when they're also able to come.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. And then the final thing, I'm waiting for my director of transparency to pop in here to read this statement. I'm sorry, I need to send y'all the link. Let me get this in here right. Give me a second. Malak, can you add this to the agenda? Give me a second. My director of transparency is about to hop on in like 2 seconds. Yeah, can you promote Michael, please? All right. Hey, Michael.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How's it going?
All right, yeah. So we have this I'm sorry, not a resolution, it's a statement. We might be doing a resolution, later on. But this is a statement regarding, obviously what we kind of talked about today, regarding the egregious overstep by ASUCLA. So Michael was a big author for this, so I want him to read it. Council members, I shared the link. If you want to sign on to it, you can. If not, if you want to do your own statement, obviously you can do that as well too. So without further ado, Michael, do you want to read over this real quick?
Yeah, for sure. Should I go ahead and share my screen, or do you already have it?
Yeah, yeah, share.
Yeah. Okay.
You have screen share? Okay, there we go.
All right. Are you able to see it? Okay. Does it look good on your end, Carl?
Yes, yeah, it does.
Okay, perfect. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael, but I'll be introducing the statement calling for the resignation of the ASDCLA Executive Director. So just to start reading through it, after years of UCLA Community Programs Office mistreatment of students, promotion of a toxic work environment, retaliation against dissent, denial of transparency for student fee spending, and refusal to reshape its leadership in line with mother organization and student government requests, USAC voted to withhold $2.7 million in student fees from CPO in 2022. USAC intended to withhold these funds until the UCLA administration addressed student needs in good faith. But last month, the ASUCLA Board of Directors held a secret meeting and executive session, voting to disperse the $2.7 million in withheld funds to the CPO. This occurred without any outreach to the Student Government Council or the student body at large. The maneuver is an egregious violation of student government authority to conduct oversight of fee spending and sets a concerning precedent. Also, the executive director and CEO of ASUCLA, Pori Abasi, oversees ASUCLA administration and serves on the board of directors. Student government bylaws dictate that he must serve as a liaison, communicating the activity of the board to USAC. ASUCLA was also informed that the USAC president had created a committee focused on working with CPO and the UCLA administration in order to release funds, presuming more transparency was given. But Pori Abasi failed to provide any consultation prior to or notification following the critical vote. ASUCLA also failed to provide public access notification of board of directors meetings. For instance, meeting agendas, locations, and times, and minutes have not been uploaded to the ASUCLA website since 2021. Because of this, he has neglected his responsibilities to the student council and to the student body at large. Furthermore, the SGA office under Pori's leadership has caused numerous funding delays to the student body, resulting in student orgs, funding problems, and massive stress. USAC Office of the President is therefore calling for the resignation of Executive Director and CEO Pori Abasi for failing to keep Council updated, allowing a secret meeting with no Council insight to be taken, and for also overstepping the USAC in the most unprecedented and egregious manner recorded in ASUCLA history regarding student funding. And there's also a link to last year's resolution. And yeah, that's a text of the statement. Yeah, thank you for your consideration reviewing, and I'm sure Carl will give you some more updates.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it. All right, so yeah, so this will be linked to the I'll put this in the Slack as well for those who want to sign off on it. And we'll be releasing, the statement officially. I mean, well, it's officially released now, but we're releasing it tomorrow to more entities. But yeah, it's been a long night. Not trying to hold anyone else up unless you have any questions about the statement. But yeah, other than that, everyone have a good night.
Good night.